Hello, everybody. Welcome to CCL. I'm your host, Jules Gambit. This is my co-host, Grandmaster Benjamin Bach. And we started a little bit late, so we're going to go straight into board assignments because we have a lot of exciting matches for you today.
Absolutely, Jules.
How do you feel?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, it's good to be back for another CCL Saturday. And yeah, like I said, we have some very exciting matches this day. Jules, let's have a look at this one right here between Illinois and Rice.
Yeah, let's take a look. As we see, we're looking at a different division today. We have Eric Zhang on Illinois' team, Krishna, Kai, and Sharvesh. Then we have Nicolas de la Colina on Rice, Venkata, Jacob, and Steven. So we're going to see a lot of exciting matches, very, very strong players here, but I don't think ones we see very often here at CCL.
Yeah, absolutely. These are teams in Division 2, and as we see, the game's already on our way. So we see that Illinois is doing very well on board number 1. Zhang has a big advantage with the black pieces. Board number 2, things looking approximately even. But yeah, we just had a very quick glance at the pairing rules, but it looked like Illinois should definitely be the favorite as they had the higher rated players.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not really sure what's going on here in board 3. It looks like one of the players maybe didn't show up or the game is getting restarted. So we'll see about that one shortly. But yeah, all these games are off to a start, and it looks like in the first board, things are already heating up.
Yeah, things looking really good for Zhang. Oh, look at that move, e5. Let's go to that game. So after e5, the knight on d4 is on attack. And if you move that knight, you hang the knight on b5. So I think Eric Zhang is already winning with the black pieces. As we can see, he's a big rating favorite over Stefan Xu. Eric Zhang is a board 1 player of Illinois. So he's the board 1 playing board 4. When you're board 1, you're supposed to win. And it looks like he's about to do so.
Yeah, you're supposed to win, but you don't always. There isn't even any tactics. One would hope that maybe you could move somewhere, but I don't know if anything's going to really be able to happen here. And it just looks like Eric is completely dominating, also up on time, but we've seen people be up a piece and still lose here.
Yep, that can happen. But Eric is a strong player. I mean, he's rated 2800 on Chess.com. I suppose now you just take the knight on d4, and here we see the players on camera. Both of them are locked in, as they say these days. Queen takes c4, check is a move where you just block with d5. And yeah, it looks like Eric is just on his way to a victory. Stefan is trying to fight on, but I don't see a good way here to keep the game going.
And you have to fight on because this is a team tournament, but you can see it in his face. He knows this is a very, very difficult position, but you still have to fight no matter what.
Yep, absolutely. Nobody's ever won or drawn a game by resigning, so good that Stefan is fighting it out. But yeah, it looks tough. I don't see him saving this one, especially since he's also down on the clock. So I think Eric is on his way to a victory. He takes the knight, but yeah, now black should up a piece.
And we just got word that board 3 is getting reset, so that will be starting shortly there too. Yeah, would it be possible to go back to bird's eye view, just see what's happening on the other games while Eric is kind of dominating this position?
Yeah, let's do it. So here we have a look. So Illinois is doing well because they're winning on board number 1. On board number 2, Nathan with the black pieces is having an advantage on the board and on the clock against Brugler. And board 3, we're still waiting for that one to get on their way. And board 4 looking approximately even there. The board 1 of Rice, de la Colina, is playing the board 4 of Illinois. So if Rice wants to have a chance, they definitely should win that one.
Yeah, it's definitely something they should do there. But we're going to take a look at this board 3. That's a total unknown so far here. And the position is so spicy on board 2 over there.
Yeah, black going queen h4, diving in with that queen. All right, so perhaps we can have a look at that one. It's a game we haven't looked at yet. We see that there we have the Illinois board 2, Krishna Nathan taking on Jacob Burglar. I feel like the position should be approximately even, Jules. But black having an advantage on the clock, and we know how big of a factor that can be.
Yeah, it should be even, but you look at this and you think, wow, black could have an attack, but maybe it's all just, bias here. But it looks like there should be some sort of attack somewhere should white slip up.
Yeah, so white goes queen e4, trying to get the queens off the board, and black says no, they want to keep the queens on. With queen e7, perhaps also since white is getting low on time, they want to keep the position more complicated, so that it is more likely that white will make a mistake. And again, Jules, I'm becoming really worried about Jacob. I mean, he's got a fine position. He's playing a good game, but his time.
1 minute and 52 seconds against 38 seconds. I don't know if anyone else in chat is a time trouble addict, but some people are able to perform really well with this time pressure and others just really can't. But it's tough when you have an equal position like this.
Yep. All right. And as we speak, I think we have a prediction in the chat, in the chess chat. So if anyone wants to make a prediction, do so now.
Ben, I would love to make a prediction, except I have no channel points because I lost them all last week.
You have no channel points?
I literally have 0 channel points. It's really, really sad. And I really thought I was going to get that win last time too.
Yeah, to be honest, there have been times where I was like spot on. I knew who was going to win, and that happened. Like it was a smooth ride. But there have also been times where I got so extremely lucky. Like last week, I think, like there was one moment where a player missed mate and won, but that didn't happen. Anyway, the match is on. And this game between Jacob and Krishna, I definitely expect some fireworks here. Look at Krishna, Queen E7. Perhaps it's not the best move, but
there was a tactic on the board?
I don't know what he had, but he's definitely cooking up something. Wait, White has... Oh, I don't know why
Jacob's doing a good job. Mm-hmm. He's doing a good job of keeping the time up a little bit. Now, the time's evening a little. It's still 1 minute to 20 seconds, but it's much better than it was, a minute ago. So... there is increment. This is 5+2, guys, so they do have increment, but it's really hard to move on a 2-second increment. Flags are definitely possible, and we've seen them before.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, in my experience with a 2-second increment, I don't see players flagging that much, but I see a lot of blunders, right? Because the time just gets so low. Queen E7 keeping that pin, but Rook E2, Jacob doing a good job navigating the complications, but the computer gives that a question mark. Maybe we can take on C5, take on C3. This is definitely where the game gets very sharp.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a tough move to make, but he's thinking it's 35 seconds to 18 seconds. I think we might see the time even up.
Yep, time is evening up. And as we speak, by the way, Illinois has won their first game on board number 1, where we expected them to win. But yeah, all of these other games are heating up as we're getting closer and closer to time pressure. Okay, Queen takes C3 is forced, and he does it. Now, either someone like trade now, either f6 or f takes g6, I guess. So you should play.
I do understand that move. You want to have some mate threats. And just trading off the queens here, though.
King g3. The evil bar makes a big drop. h4, okay. So let's see. Can you take? I think yes. But the evil bar is all the way down. I wonder why, to be honest.
Yeah, this position doesn't look so bad for white here.
Right. I mean, it feels like there's got to be something. Okay, take. Perhaps just c5. Maybe just start pushing the pawns, and I don't really see how you stop them. Rook e2. I mean, you can go after these pawns, but it's just all about the quality of the pawns. Like, you see white picking up some pawns as well, which is why white is doing fine now.
Yeah, the C and D pawns look a little bit scary, but now you have this pawn on b6, and it's going to be a bit hard to counter the threats while trying to promote yourself.
Yeah, I suppose rook d7 is just a draw here. Okay, a4. This is getting very sharp. Black having 2 connected passes, with white's pawns are running down the board. I think white's faster. Oh.
Or not.
Goes to show how difficult this position is. White queens with check, but after king g7, there's no follow-up, and this king on h4 is all of a sudden completely alone. Like starting checkmate.
That's so hard to see. That's so hard to see. Especially with 4 seconds on the clock, he just has to move. He's going to flag. Yeah, it just has to make a move, and I think the mate is incoming.
All right, he still has to do it, though. King there. Where's the mate? Check. You check? I'll go rook c3. Yeah, that's it. All right, so nice win there for Krishna.
And you see it. I also love Krishna's camera here. Look at that crisp quality. He has like a professional grade camera here. And we see it.
All right, so Krishna gets the win there. 2-0 now for Illinois. All right, the other games are also on the race. Shaw on board 3 is playing the London Opening. I quite like his position already. And on board 4, Illinois is winning as well. They might sweep the very first round.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and that would be such a strong start. Someone asked, when is Texas playing? Next, we have ASU versus Arizona. So we don't have Texas today, but we've seen them in the past. And Yeah, it's kind of funny since we have one of these games that started late. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more behind the other games, but that just means we have more to watch here.
Right. Okay, so yeah, the game on board 4 is definitely interesting. Both players there are in time pressure. So let's stick with this one first. Why is up the exchange with black as these pawns on the queen side? So it's far from over, but I don't see how you're really pushing them up the board. In the meantime, white is trying to create a pass pawn on the king side. G5, good move, I thought, by black to try to undermine the white pawns. This game remains very sharp.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe some sort of repetition thing over that. Now it looks really, really good. And look at the control that rook has. When you're up at exchange, those pass pawns are coming. I'd say this is going to be a Charvesh victory here.
Probably, but this a pawn is close to promotion. You probably have to go rook h7 to h1. He's got 14 seconds. He goes for it. Nice find.
Yeah, it was 7 seconds on the clock. Yeah, just trying to solidify, because if you push a2 right away, the rook can just block. And now it's going to be a little bit difficult, but he still has to follow it up correctly.
It's far from over. As long as these two pass pawns are still on the board. Okay, rook h1 now. Okay, b3. There's king c3, king a4, but it feels too slow. But again, I mean,
Oh,
e3. Okay, pushes. Black pushes, I assume. Push, knight e6. I mean, with 11 seconds on the clock, this is far from... No, but now e6. Wait, what the...
oh,
What? What is that?
and the knight just defends everything. And now they're going to get the queen, and you're too slow. Oh, a last-minute win by Nicolas de la Colina. Yeah,
Okay,
it just
king...
shows anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah, I mean, when those two pass pawns remain on the board, it was far from over, but yeah, king d5 was not it. Anyway, we still have this last game between Shaw and Venkata. I really like how Shaw is doing, because he's way up on time. The position is approximately balanced, though.
Yeah, he is way up on time. Wait, how did that happen? 4 minutes to a minute and yeah, a minute and 15 seconds. His position is great, but it doesn't really matter how good your position is. I think you could even be like, when if you're down that much on time, it'd be difficult to follow up.
Exactly. All right. So we see that Black is perhaps a little bit better on the board, but he's on 3.5 minutes on the clock. Position is fairly simplified, though, with both sides only having one minor piece and all of the heavy pieces. Now the knight on c4 is under attack, but I feel like this is part of Kai's strategy. He's just trying to make simple, easy, quick moves. Okay, but that does run into bishop a6. You still have b3, though, but the pin looks unpleasant to me, as you can follow up with perhaps a rook to c8 and put pressure on the knight on c4.
Oh, that is a really good move there. And how exactly do you defend everything? Yeah, it seems like a natural move for rook c1, but I don't know. Things just seem to be falling apart a little bit. Although, can he capitalize with 46 seconds to 4 minutes? That's a 4-minute time advantage.
Right, but the moves are easy now. He wants to go rook c8. With white, maybe what you can do is go for a move like rook e1, so that perhaps after rook c8, there's knight takes b6. Because if takes, you take the bishop, and if you take on e2, you take on d5, and then take on e2, which is the point behind rook e1. So let's see if Kai is going to do something like that. I mean, this pin is annoying, and at least now Black is getting easier moves.
That's true. Maybe he can gain a little bit of time back, but he's still using a lot of time per move. Like when you have 30 seconds and you're using 5 to 10 seconds per move, it's not super sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, he's got to move. Rook f8, perhaps d takes c5 is his idea, but I assume Black is going to have to recapture with their queen. Again, Venkata playing a good game, but the time situation is a bit worrisome for him.
I mean, maybe he can pull it off. Like we said, some people really do like time pressure and they're able to make the right moves. I bet he wishes that pawn was gone from e4 because it'd be really nice to have that open diagonal right now.
Mm-hmm. I think, by the way, nobody likes time pressure, but some people are just bad at managing their time. I mean, it's also something I myself often have to improve on. But I think nobody actually likes to be in time pressure. But let's see, 20 seconds on the clock for Venkata. He's got to move here. Just
And it's
play
a difficult
h6.
position.
Hey, pass the move. No bot.
Yeah, because it feels like you should have something in this
Oh.
position, which makes it a little difficult instead of just playing a simple move.
Look at that. D takes c5 and knight d6 is a great opportunity for Kai. And he's got all of the time in the world to figure it out.
Oh yeah, and then it will be kind of hard to follow up, especially you have back rank threats, everything will be kind of hanging. And he does have time to figure it out. He's taking his time here too, but he doesn't see it, and now it's a little bit more stabilized.
Right, he goes c4, but he's putting a lot of pawns on the light squares, limiting his light square. Bishop b4. Perhaps what he should have done is take, and knight a4, send the knight to the c5 square. The bishop is fast, but so is the knight. I don't see a future for the knight currently, as it's completely entombed on the b2 square. Just a6, solidify everything. The only way you can activate this knight ever again is by going knight d1 and f3. But the moment you go f3, then you activate this bishop again. So, yeah, Kai having a big advantage on the clock, but it's hard to see how he can put it to work as the position is completely locked up.
And that's what he's trying to do, but yeah, it looks really difficult without activating that diagonal. I'm not sure if it'd even be worth it. But now perhaps you can bring the knight over at some point.
He goes rook a5, perhaps rook a2, and now maybe like knight b2, knight a4, send the knight to c5. At least now the knight has a future.
Yeah, now the knight can get free a little bit. And with 14 seconds on his clock, he just has to move. Quick, quick, quick.
Yeah, this looks tough for Venkata with the knight jumping to c5. It's getting annoying with like 6 seconds on the clock.
Oh, does he even see his time? He needs to move. You can't be living on increment here.
No. e5, good move. Knight c5. I guess he's going to take. He takes d4, but Kai keeping up the pressure with that pre-move. In 2 seconds.
Just move. Giving us a little anxiety there. And that knight actually is pretty solid now. That was a very, very sad night a few moves ago. It was late to the party. It was upset. We just wanted to trade it off. And now it's got a nice outpost.
Right, knight takes a6 was pointed out here by the computer, just picking up a pawn. Let's see if that's what Kai is going to do. Also, other moves like, let's say, queen e3 or h3. Okay, he goes there, but I would try to get rid of the knight as it's so annoying. But I like what he's doing, though. Trying to create some counterplay here. Maybe f4.
With 4 seconds on the clock. He's going to get flagged, you think? I mean, there is 2-second increment, but flags do definitely happen here. He is creating threats, though. He's not just playing passively.
He's trying to send his rooks over to the king side. Maybe try to block everything on like queen e3 to f4. Makes sense here. But Venkata fighting, and there we have queen e3 on the board.
That move is a little bit scary. Bishop c6, you want to make sure there's no tactics with that knight over there, which is probably what he's looking at right now. Yeah, that is a scary move to play when you have 4 seconds on the clock.
Right. I mean, knight f4, there's still rook b5, saving the rook and the queen. But Venkata holding on by a thread here. So let's see what Kai is going to do. Knight d... Rook takes g2 maybe, and he takes d... Oh no, it doesn't work. You should just take the queen. Knight f4. Yeah, I mean, he had no time. I mean, I also didn't see it. And that's the problem. Apparently there was something, but I also couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, when you only have 2 seconds on the clock, you don't want to make a risky move. But now you're just down an exchange. I mean, there are still chances, but the position is getting pretty dire.
Yeah, it's pretty hopeless now. He's down the exchange, down on time. I think perhaps what he should have done, if we can go back to that moment, perhaps after knight d3, maybe he had to go e takes d3, sacrifice the queen, and you might still have some compensation here as you hit this and you threaten this. Perhaps that's what he should have done. But anyway, let's go back to the game. He's down the exchange, but he's still fighting on him. Why not also getting below a minute?
Yeah, below a minute to 4 seconds, still quite a time difference, but it's much better than 30 seconds to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which we had earlier. And I mean, things can happen. That bishop, if the diagonal is able to be activated, I mean, the king does have that safe square on h7, so there are possibilities. Yeah, but Kai's playing this well. Move. Yes, oh my god. 0.1 second spend.
Wow, we bombed with 0.1. Yeah, now I would just create some luft. Make sure you never get back and checkmated. Just pass the move to your opponent. But Kai is taking a lot of time. I mean, he should not get low on time himself. That would be a bit unnecessary here.
Especially since it seems like Venkata has been playing pretty decently with low time. It might not be a situation he wants to get into. And he's creating threats. He's doing well. I think for me personally, and a lot of other players, when they get low on time, they try to play passively, hold it all together, but he's really making all the threats.
Queen g5, and Kata trying to slide in with that queen, d6. There's check and check, but fortunately for white, there's still g3, so not a perpetual. And I think, okay, he's trying to go E3. Not over
It's
yet.
an
He's
interesting
fighting
move.
on. Like, you could go D7, E3, D8, King H7, and it might still not be that clear. So it's not over yet.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit difficult. And 8 seconds to 15 seconds, now it's kind of evening up. I'm curious to see where this will go.
I think still White's just going to win, but Venkata fighting his heart out here. Queen E6, perhaps Rook C7. He goes Rook A5. Bishop C8 hitting this. Hey,
And you just
you might
know
have
the
to make a
adrenaline
small
is crazy.
concession now. It's not 4 seconds. He's got to move.
Queen takes, you get a pawn. It might not be enough because now it's Kai who's down on to keep up his time. It's a little bit scary.
Queen D4, but now just taking on C4, you pick up another pawn, and you would trade off the queens, but now the game goes on. Oh, now the queens are traded off. This should be a pretty easy win now for Kai.
Yeah, now I think it's going to be a lot easier and everything's falling. We see the resignation, but a great fight by Venkata. Kai pulls through. Yeah, and that was the last game of round 1 here.
Yeah, so Kai gives Illinois a 3-1 lead. We saw the relief there. I mean, he was winning for most of the game, but he still had to finish it off. But he gets the job done, and now we're off to round number 2.
Yes, we are. Round number 2 is starting shortly, but that is quite the advantage for Illinois. We have seen teams come back. I think it was also a 3-1 lead like that. But as we see, there was almost a clean sweep with Eric Zhang, Krishna, Nathan, and Kai Shaw all taking home a point. Nicolas de la Canina took home a point, but not the strongest start for Rice here.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Illinois could have even started 4-0 because Charvesh was winning on the last board, but in time pressure, Nicolas managed to turn things around. Anyway, we're off to round number 4. Here we have the bird's eye view. We see Eric Zhang going for quite an original opening with a quick A3 and B4. He is playing the board 3, I believe, on the Rice team, Jacob Burglar. So we'll see how that game will develop. Burglar going for a very solid setup with kind of a sloth setup.
And I believe boards 3 and 4 will be starting shortly. Now, let's see, what's the opening here? On board 2, King's Indian Defense.
Yeah, on board number 2 between Nathan and Xu. Yeah, all right. So we have this game here between Eric Zhang and Jacob Burglar. Quite going for some pretty original stuff here with the pawn pushes, but Black is extremely solid here. Bishop G6. I would drop that bishop back to H7, making sure that it can never be hit by the white knight. And eventually, I'd say grab more space in the center with the move E6, E5, and Black should just be a bit better.
Yeah, and I've heard great things about the Slav. You have to be very patient. You have to be okay not winning. But it's really hard to break through, and I heard it could be a little bit annoying for opponents.
Yeah, no, Slav is super solid and very easy to play. It's an opening I teach a lot of my students. And yeah, I mean, because it's just very easy and very solid. So it's also going well here for Jacob. So we'll see how this game will develop. And Jules, all the other games are underway as well. So do you want to go back to the bird's eye view?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right. So we have some pretty interesting games on board number 2. I quite like what Xu is doing with the King's Indian setup, putting some pressure on the pawn on d4. Why going for a bit of a London? Usually when you play the London, you have a pawn on c3, so the d4 is better defended. On board number 3 between De La Colina against Shaw. Black also going for more for a semi-slav setup with a bishop inside the pawn chain on the c8 square. And then on board number 4, we have an interesting Sicilian between Ula Bloto and Devi Prasad.
Is anyone in chat Sicilian players? They're always very, very sharp. You get some interesting openings. But yeah, I think we're probably gonna get a king side castle here, because otherwise a white might just get mated.
Yep. And one game that's looking pretty interesting to me, Jules, is the game between Nathan and Xu. Again, I really like what Xu is doing on board number 2. So do you want to go to that game?
Yes, let's take a look.
And so Nathan playing an excellent King's Indian here. He now has ideas of knight e4 check, opening up the long diagonal for his bishop. This king on d2 is safe for now, but it might not be safe for too long. I mean, even in the endgame, the king can come under a lot of fire. So I really like what Stefan is doing here. He's a big rating underdog, as we can see. He's rated 2350, and his opponent 2700. Oh, but perhaps now bishop c2, going after the pawn on b3 is an option.
That does seem very, very aggressive, and he's up on time. He is a huge rating underdog, which, sometimes can be misleading.
Yeah, I mean, some of these players don't play on their accounts as much, so they might be unrated. And, even if you're a big rating underdog, your opponent always still, every game is a game in and of itself, right? Rating doesn't win you the game automatically. You still have to do it. And Krishna under a lot of pressure here with the white pieces.
And it's kind of difficult to see how exactly you want to defend that pawn. You probably have to defend it with your king, but that also seems like a bit of a concession. And you were right that the king does not seem very safe on that d-square anymore.
No, perhaps what Krishna misses. Maybe he was aiming to go for f3, trying to trap that bishop there. Again, there's that move bishop c2, hitting b3. b2 would be under attack as well. So Krishna under a lot of pressure. I don't see a good way to defend that pawn on b2. I mean, king c1, but that looks so passive.
It looks so passive. And also that knight on b4 is permanent. That knight we saw like a really, really ugly knight in the last game. This knight is beautiful. And there's no real way to challenge it.
Yeah, the knight on b4 is beautiful. It's on a nice outpost. And for those of you wondering what an outpost is, it's a square in the opponent's camp. So you're playing with black, it would be on the fourth rank or lower than that. And it's protected by a pawn. So you can't ever really push the knight away, because it also cannot be undermined by one of white's pawns. White doesn't have an a pawn or a c pawn to push it away. So that is why we're talking about an outpost. f3 was played, Jules, but bishop c2, and now your own knight on h4 is completely stuck. So Steven doing really good stuff here with the black pieces.
Absolutely. And maybe he wanted to be able to push some of those pawns against the king side, but now he's just too busy defending everything. And yeah, Steven's playing beautifully here. It's very difficult to know how exactly, and he's just giving up the b2 pawn now.
Yeah, and a really, really nice game here by Stefan. So e4 on the board, trying to grab some space, but now b2 can be captured, b3 as well. Let's see which one Stefan will go for. I think I would take on b2. Because this rook is running out of square, should probably have to go to e1. And then what about a5 followed by a4, activating the rook and again going for a big attack on that white king.
Yeah, that looks beautiful, and he's definitely looking at that. I think that b2 square is great. There's no real way for the rook to get safe. I mean, anywhere you put the rook, it's either going to be out of commission or getting attacked. And I love that idea of pushing that a pawn. That could be really beautiful. And maybe now we'll see it with a5.
Yeah, a5 a nice move, bishop f6 a nice move as well. Hitting the knight, you have to make a move to defend it, and then you can take on b3. I didn't want to take on b3 right away, as there was rook b1, but yeah, Steven having... I keep saying Steven and Stefan. I maybe someone in the chat can tell me how I should pronounce his name. But he's got a lot of good options here, and we talked about that in one of our other broadcasts, Jules, that can sometimes be a little bit annoying. It's nicer when you have one clear good option. If you have too many good options, you can be like, well, this is good, that is good, and you can end up spending a lot of time.
Absolutely, decision paralysis there, but I think that c5 pawn is working overtime. That c5 pawn should get a raise with how much it's doing here, because now the bishop also has a nice spot. You're probably not going to want to trade that bishop, actually.
Yeah, so bishop e3 by Krishna, trying to get that bishop off the board. But I think you're right. Just keep that bishop on the board. Bishop f6, hitting the knight. White's going to have to go g3. I would take here. And we talked about opening up that a file with a5, a4. After you're taking b3, you can also just push that a pawn all the way home. I know the Super Bowl happened a few weeks ago, but this would look like quite a touchdown to me.
I love the sports analogies there. And yeah, but if you don't see the idea, you don't see the idea. But now that the pawn's gone, that a pawn becomes very, very powerful, and there's not a great way to stop it.
All right, so let's see what's going on. Sue's doing great in this game. And Jules, so let's go back to the bird's eye view. There's one really funny game. Look at that A file in the game between Pulabotla and Devna Prasad. Black should put a piece on A8, and then the A file is completely occupied.
This looks like someone set up the board wrong.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that fourth game is really funny.
This game is
wild. We need to take a look at that game, that board 4 game, because it looks like someone needs to get fired because they set up the board wrong and the players just kept playing.
Right, white also has a king on d1, but now white can grab a full rook on b2. Either bishop takes b2 or knight takes b2. Black trying to blast open a center. Either d takes c4 or knight takes c4 is going to be played. I would probably take with the bishop so that my king has a safe square on c1. Let's see what Venkata is going to do as he's getting down to a minute on the clock.
Also, what even happened here? How did this take place? What was the catalyst for this beautiful position?
Well, this all started off as a Sicilian, but things got pretty wild. I mean, usually you play the Sicilian to get an interesting and combative game, but I haven't seen something like this just yet. Yeah, this is definitely the game of the round.
You know what would be funny? I think at some point we should have this position and make a bunch of grandmasters guess what opening this came from and see if they can get it.
Right.
Because I mean, it's just very, very unique. But yeah, that seems to just hang a pawn, no, unless there's some sort of tactic they're aiming at.
Right, yeah. Black was turning queen d2 checkmate, so he had to defend against that somehow. You can take the pawn, but white's going to set the king up to either c2 or c1. So even though you can take that pawn, black will still be down a rook for only 3 pawns. So it's still white with a big lead in material.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the time is pretty rough for white here. It's 2 minutes to 42 seconds, but if that evens out a little bit, there's definitely chances.
Knight takes c3 on the board. Okay, king c2. There we have it. Maybe knight e2. Oh, that was also what the computer was pointing out. Threatening knight d4. He travels through the b5 square, but perhaps that is slightly inaccurate. Knight e3 also not an option.
It's really hard to see what to do for white here. You just have to allow some things, but you don't want to get your queen forked. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. Yeah, but Venkata getting down to 20 seconds, and this is a really sharp game. He really is going to have to speed up a little bit, otherwise it's going to be tough. But yeah, maybe
Just
moving
move
the
the
rook to
queen.
d1. Or move the queen. He's got to move. He's got to move. You cannot drop down a seconds in such a complicated position.
Oh. And I'm wondering why that's so bad, but perhaps the king just doesn't have a lot of squares and there's a mate threat, which could be found immediately. Queen d2, and now it's really, really hard to stop something like knight c3 without giving up your queen. And
Yeah.
we see it. Charvesh won. It says on time, but this is also just a positional win because I think you're losing the queen or several pieces no matter what you do here.
Yeah, great game by Charvesh, queen e2. Indeed, there's no good way to stop knight c3 or knight e3. And Charvesh, we saw him on camera there shortly. He was just chilling, even though he was down a rook. Crazy game. Anyway, some results are in. We see Shaw drew with the La Colina on board number 3. So that leaves us with the games between Nathan and Xu. Nathan has completely turned things around in that King's Indian. And Eric Zhang is worse on board 1 against Jacob Bergler.
Yeah, and I mean, that board 1 game is pretty interesting. Maybe we should take a look.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I clicked on board 2. So let's follow the action here for now. But after this game is done, we'll move to board 1. Yeah, this one looks winning for white with knight f6 coming. Tough for Stefan. Wait, now you can take an e7, take an f6. This is far from over. But Stefan played a beautiful game, but unfortunately, he has slipped up a little bit.
Yes, but with 8 seconds on the clock, Krishna has to be pretty careful here.
Right, king takes e7, and I think black is fine. Black might even push for the win, as the material is equal. White has a rook, but black has a bishop and 2 pawns. I think it's definitely easier to play with black. This pawn is always protected. Just push the pawns and push for the win.
Yeah, and you have to be a little careful here that you're not trying to overextend yourself a little bit here and push for the win as white, but the bishop's pretty powerful here. You have those pawns. I mean, you have to be careful not to lose them, which could happen, actually. Maybe just bishop g2 or something?
Right, but white can go c5. And the moment you take, you hang b7, so it's a double-edged sword, but now he has the h-pawn. Rook h3. The c-pawn is not going anywhere for the moment. I think black's faster. f4. You probably have to give up your bishop, but these pawns should win you the game.
You have to make sure of that, but this looks really, really nice, and he wasn't 100% sure of that. Yeah, but you're going to have to give up the bishop now, and you have, I guess, this isn't technically a fortress. I just guessed that you'll have to trade the rook for the 3 pawns, and then it'll be a draw.
Well, I think now you just keep checking, check, and the king doesn't have a good place to hide, and that is what Krishna does. Yeah, bishop e4 was just too slow. He lost the tempo. He should have just moved the king up right away, and now Krishna just keeps checking. So it has to be a draw here. So big, very up and down game, but eventually it ends in a draw.
And we see it. That's all the games are finished here for this round 2 as well. It looks like black won on board 1. 2 draws, and then black won on board 4.
Mhm.
So we'll take a look at these round standings shortly.
Yeah, so right now, if I'm not mistaken, the score is 5-3. So this round ended in a tie. So definitely still chances for both sides.
And it's the first to 8.5 points, so it's not based on individual round performance. It's first to 8.5. And they're in a position where they could come back. They could come back, but they're really going to need a push in round 3.
Right. It's far from over. I mean, we see also here Stefan on board 4 was close to beating the board number 2 of Illinois. But yeah, they're gonna need some points. So let's see.
And we've just gotten word that the games are going to be starting shortly, and the points are going to need to be on the board. We're going to need to see some aggressive play. Maybe not so many draws this next round.
Yeah, we only had 2, but both of those draws were well fought. And look at this, Jules. On board number 12.
What an opening.
Board 1 between Pulla Batla and Eric Zhang. We see 1a6, the disrespect.
This is definitely an opening of all time. And you see Venkata's taking a second. He's like, what is going on here? And sometimes it can actually be a little bit psychological. We saw that this opening was played in the last CCL match, and the opponent responded with some sort of like delayed king move.
Right, but, and look at this Nathan following as well. He also plays 1a6.
Do you think this is a collaborative board effort?
Perhaps.
I wonder if we'll have a3 on the next board.
But look at this Pulla Batla going for some pretty interesting opening play as well with g3, bishop g2, and knight h3. But I don't like what Eric is doing here. It feels like white should have the advantage here, as white has a lot more space. Also now white should be first to take advantage of that open e-file with a quick rook e1 coming.
Absolutely, and Illinois is like, we're in the lead. We don't care about openings, but this is kind of interesting. You do have to be careful, but in these kind of weird offbeat openings, usually one side, the side that's playing the offbeat opening, has studied it very, very well, and the other side has studied it pretty much not at all.
Yeah, they're on their home turf, their pet opening that they always play. So they know the lines a little bit better. So let's see what's going to happen. And because that we already see Venkata spending some time here, he's down 40 seconds on the clock. We saw in the other games he was struggling a little bit with time as well. So let's hope for him he can speed it up a little bit. As that last game, he really lost due to time pressure.
Yeah, and that can be a little tilting too. He might go a little too fast or still keep it slow. We're not really sure, but he is down on time so far.
Right. Okay, so now we see Venkata trading on b5 and going c4, but I feel like now either b4 or you can perhaps just keep the tension, play a move like knight d7, and Eric should be doing quite okay.
I'm looking at board 2, and it's pretty interesting, and I think someone in chat mentioned it as well, so that might be worth taking a look at some point. Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, wow. So on board number 2, De La Colina putting a lot of pressure on Nathan. Yeah, I like what De La Colina is doing better than what Venkata did. Just going for a very central approach, just pushing the pawns in the middle, trying to open up the center quickly, and really trying to punish black for that disrespect opening with 1a6.
And maybe he has studied this a6 opening. Someone said, Darkmind said Naroditsky has played it before, so it is possible that he's seen it, knows how to respond, or maybe, he just knows the general principles, which helps a lot. A lot of people think you need to study specific lines and openings, but sometimes if you just know the general principles, you can figure things out on the spot.
Yeah. All right, so knight c3 on the board, developing the knight. All right, so let's see. So Jules, looking at all of these games, let's perhaps go to board number 2. As again, I really like what White's doing. White's really putting a lot of pressure on Krishna. That king's still in the middle. We see d takes e5, but now knight takes e5 or pawn takes both look pretty good for White. The problem for black is that it's really hard to develop this bishop. The moment you go to e7, white can trade, followed by knight d6. So it's really hard for black to complete their development here.
And you do not want to get stuck out in the open like that. All right, just takes. Very easy, very simple. And you have to find a way to kind of get developed. So maybe removing your queen from that open c file might be a decent option.
Yeah, there might be a start moving the queen, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's just hard to come up with good moves here. It's also not that easy for white to just break through and deliver checkmate. That's not happening either, but it's just really hard for black to get their pieces in the game. White also has more space due to this pawn on e5. So it's really hard for black to do anything here, and that is why we see that Krishna has paused to think.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he is up on time still because it is a very difficult position, but maybe this is where he'll use his time. This seems like just an effort to get to get castled, but I'm not really sure if it works.
Right, but even if white just goes bishop g3, I wonder what the idea is. Now with bishop g3, they would reinforce the knight d6 move. So, queenside castle is not really going to solve your problems. Black is also very weak on that side of the board. Bishop g7 runs into knight d6, so I don't like what Krishna is doing at all here. And we'll see how it plays out, but perhaps the disrespect opening hasn't really worked out the way he was hoping it would.
Perhaps it disrespected himself. You never know. But that's the risk of playing those pet openings. Sometimes you get a great position. Sometimes you're left with this. So you have to be a little bit careful there, but just now, actually, f6 is weak too. How do you protect everything? Well, I guess f6 is protected by knight d5. But the queen moving out of the way, and maybe now just like knight d6, and you get that nice pawn.
Yeah, it's making sure that knight d6 and then pawn takes doesn't come with a tempo, so as the queen now would not be under attack. But still, it's a move that makes sense. Is after takes, white can follow with knight e5, and after knight e5, your queen can jump in to the h5 square. So a lot of good options here for white. Let's see what Nicolas is going to do here. I think he just needs to keep up the pace, put pressure on Krishna, as it's difficult for black to come with good moves here. Perhaps he's looking for a breakthrough, but I don't think it's quite there yet.
Yeah, you're never really sure. And you have to, sometimes you come here and you're like, okay, I've got the win, I've got something, and you're taking so much time. But that's why I said I'm surprised it's not Krishna who's down on time. But positionally, this just looks kind of crushing.
Right, this looks nice for Nicolas, yeah. So knight 96 in a trade we see happening. I'm sure that now he's going to follow with 95. And for Krishna, that's tough. His king is not safe anywhere. And if he goes kingside castle, he's pushed up these pawns. Queenside castles, well, he's pushed up these pawns over here. So maybe you should keep it in the center for now, but it's not going to be safe there forever.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to figure out where your counterplay is, and you have to find some quickly. And I know he wants to be castled somewhere, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so I think he was just a little too creative in this game. Jules, do you want to go back to the bird's eye view to see what's happening in the other games?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Right, so this could be a round where Rice can potentially strike back. They're doing well on board number 1 and on board number 2. Illinois doing well on the bottom two boards, though, as Shaw's having the advantage on board 3 against Xu, and Devi Prasad doing well against Jacob Burglar. So yeah, I feel like this round, maybe we'll see a tie again.
Yeah, those are some really, really interesting positions on board 3 and board 4. We've got those opposite side castles positions, especially board 4 is pretty interesting here because it feels like you should have something, but yeah, I guess we're getting spicy with the positions lately.
Right. So let's see what is going to happen. Let's see. Perhaps let's go to that game between Charvesh and Jacob Burglar. This one's looking pretty interesting to me.
Yeah,
as
that
white is
really
up a pawn. Black's about to break through, or white's up 2 pawns. So black's about to break through on the king side.
And sometimes you see an evaluation like this because it means with best play, white is able to keep it all together, maybe simplify, and they're up their 2 pawns. But this looks actually very, very difficult to defend.
Wow, and look at this. Jacob sacrificed the exchange so he can take on g3, blasting open the h file, hitting the bishop on h3. I like what he's doing. Definitely practically, this looks like the right approach, as difficult for Charves to defend here, but he is chilled out. Charves is chilling.
He's mad chilling. Is he like he's like laid in his bed or something? Is he playing from his bed?
Or from like a comfortable chair. But he's chilling. I think he's just playing from his laptop. So his laptop is on his lap.
No, this has got to be a bed. Like I recognize a college pillow anywhere. Like this was the same college pillow that I got in college. It's like the Target one.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, if you're comfortable, maybe it helps you a little bit. But he is mad chilling.
Yeah. Let's see what he's going to do. Time is, I mean, Sharp has just dropped below 2 minutes. Not an easy position at all, as Jacob is blasting things open on the king side.
Yeah, I feel like Bishop G2 just kind of, I don't know, maybe holds it together, but at the same time, it's a huge concession. That is an interesting move.
Yeah, Queen G4, I like it, and the computer is giving that an exclamation mark, defending the bishop on H3, and now he's getting ready to go Queen to D7, I think. Because you're happy to trade the queens off here, so that's going to make it difficult for Black to attack.
Queen D7. That's interesting. I guess maybe you have something, but instead, okay, he goes Queen E6. I'm just a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried now for white that maybe the queen will be able to activate itself.
Yeah, Queen H5 looks quite appealing to me, threatening stuff like Queen E2, hitting Bishop on D2, hitting H2, and there he goes, Queen H5. This is not easy at all for white to figure it out with a minute and 15 seconds on his clock, and the computer's pointing out with the blue arrow H takes G3, and that often indicates that all of the alternatives are bad, but that invites the rook in. I guess there's still Bishop G2 or King H2, but very sharp stuff here in this game.
Yeah, this is the position where it's really, really difficult. You can't listen to valuation because I feel like I would actually rather have black here, because how can you really figure things out, especially now he's dwindling down to 40 seconds. And he does find the move, but rook takes G3, king over, and you don't have another rook to double up, so that's a good thing there for Charvesh, but it's still a really complicated position.
It sure is, yeah. Rook takes G3 here looks like a logical move. Then either Bishop G2 or King H2 is going to have to be played. Let's see which one Charvesh has in mind. But yeah, I don't really see an alternative to Rook takes G3. So Jacob here also has to keep up the pace, as he's also getting low on time.
Yeah, he does have to keep up the pace, but I don't know. It does seem a lot harder for Charvesh. And Jacob really wants the knockout blow, because they don't have the evaluations. He doesn't know if he's completely winning or losing. And this is kind of one of those odd positions where it's something in between. But now, I don't know, Queen H4 makes sense. It's a little scary.
All right, so King H2 played by Charvesh, defending the Bishop on H3, stepping out of the check. The computer is giving that an exclamation mark. Perhaps it is also the best move. This rook probably has to move, then you threaten Queen E2, but that gives white a time to go, let's say, Rook F1, bring in some defenders, and with Rook F1, you also threaten to start a little counterattack of your own. He goes Rook G7, Queen E2 is now a big threat, but I think you're just in time to go, let's say, Rook A F1.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and he goes Rook F1, so the suggestion, and now, yeah, now everything is kind of pretty well defended. Doubling up the rook seems like a very simple idea. And 15 seconds on the clock, he has to move. He spent so much time trying to find that attack, and now it's a little difficult. I hope he's looking at his time.
Yeah, he goes King A7, keeping the tension. But the evil board makes a big jump in white's favor. But it's still a very tense game. Rook F2 play, but now Queen E1. Threatening Queen G1 checkmate, so you have to defend against that somehow. Bishop F1.
Oh, and he
Queen
did
G1?
Oh, he just didn't see the mate on the clock. And I guess Jacob's strategy played off. Oh wow, look at Charvesh's face. He's like, what just happened there?
Right. But a lot of action still in the other games. So it looks like Eric Zhang won on board number 1, but a big turnaround just happened on board number 2, where Nathan was winning, but he just made a massive blunder, and now Nicolas is on his way to victory.
Oh wow, okay. And that was, I'm still in shock from that, to be honest. But yeah, now let's check out the Nicolas de Colina game. And he has to play it well. He only has 11 seconds on the clock, but this just looks absolutely dominating. And we see it through resignation, which means there's only one game left.
Yeah, the game between Kai and Stefan. But Stefan up 3 pawns here. A miracle has to happen for him not to win. He's
he
got 2
almost
seconds,
flagged.
though. 2 seconds.
Oh, don't flag, don't
Wait,
flag,
there
don't
goes
flag.
1 pawn. It's not over yet.
And he was down a 0.2 seconds. I mean, at that time, sometimes it's just a miracle if you don't flag.
Here you just have to make some quick moves. So I like that he... Okay, I like knight f4 pre-move. It allows bishop d6, as the computer also pointed out, which would save the draw. King f6, and you win back another pawn, but there's still... Wait, but now you just take an e5. King e5, with the bishop or the rook. But you have to try king f6. Yeah, but now take... This is an easy draw. All right,
Yeah,
so...
I mean, if someone doesn't flag.
This is a pretty important hold for Illinois, as Rice is fighting back, but this draw keeps them a 1-point lead.
Wow, and that was actually such a comeback from Rice going into this final round here. They're only down a point, and it's first to 8.5 points, so Illinois will need to get it the next round, or perhaps Rice will. Otherwise, we might be going into tie breaks.
Yeah, anything can still happen in this last round, as Illinois only has a 1-point lead. We saw some big turnarounds. Krishna was completely winning against Nicolas on board 2, but he blundered. And Chavez also a massive blunder on board 4 against Jacob. Had they won those 2 games, Jules, the match would have already been over. But anything can happen as the players get on time. We're getting ready for round 4 with only a 1-point lead for Illinois.
Yeah, and perhaps Rice even has the momentum here. They've managed a pretty solid comeback in these last couple of rounds, so they might be able to keep it up.
Yeah, they definitely have the momentum, but they're still down a point in the match. So let's see what they can do in this final round. I feel like, Nathan and Eric Zhang were messing around a little bit too much with that opening. But for Zhang, it paid off. Wow. But Jules, we're off to round number 4. Eric Zhang does not switch it up. He stays true to his colors. He opens up with 1b4.
What a time, what an opening there. But it seems the Illinois players have a little bit of fun with their openings. I wonder if that's a trend we've seen in all of their matches here. But yeah, getting almost a similar setup.
And Nicolas going for a very solid setup with e6, knight f6. But now, it's kind of working out for White. As White has a lot more space on the queen side. So these positions can sometimes be a bit annoying for Black to play.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be patient. You don't want to do anything too much. So yeah, maybe another one of those positions where the evaluation isn't quite to the truth.
Yep. All right. So let's see what's going to happen here. I kind of like what Eric is doing so far. He's up on time, but we'll see how this game will develop. And then let's quickly go back to the bird's eye view as the other games are also starting off. We see that on board number 2. Nathan playing a mix of the London and the Queen's Gambit against Pula Bathlan. And then on board number 3, we see Burglar against Shaw. Again, a semi-slough from Shaw. So very solid stuff there. I don't know, Jules. I feel like Illinois should have a small edge because of the upper point, but really anything can still happen.
Yeah, especially with the momentum. Rice is really going to be going out all for it here. And a lot of these matches, since momentum is so important, we see them ending in round 3 and of course still playing on to round 4, but here it's pretty solid.
Yeah, and we see on board 4 Stefan opening things up with a Smith-Morra gambit against Devi Prasad.
Oh, heck yeah.
But Devi Prasad is like, nope, I don't want your gambit. He just wants to play his accelerated dragon, I guess, with a quick g6.
That's kind of I've never seen that. I've seen people decline the Smith-Morra. I'm a Smith-Morra player myself in Blitz, and I've seen people decline it with the Alapin. That's very common. But I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it's an unusual way to decline the Smith-Morra, but it's certainly possible. Yeah, so he goes d5, challenging White center right away. All right, so looking at the games, Jules, I guess we'll stay in bird's eye view for a little bit, but where do you potentially see things brewing up?
Well, we have a question from chat. The chess master asked, would Zhang's pawns become a bigger target later on? So maybe that would be a good option to talk about a little there.
Right, so perhaps we can go to that first, to board 1 again between Eric Zhang and Nicolas. I don't think those pawns on the queen side can become a real target later on. Perhaps it would be an asset for him if he goes a5 later, takes and opens up the a file, followed by rook a7. 95 is played, so now I kind of expect some trades. That would bring the black queen out to e5. You can maybe follow with a quick queen g5. So maybe just take once with the knight, and then go a5, because that queen e5 to g5 move was looked quite annoying to me.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like trades benefit black here because you're a little bit crunched for space, and usually trades would help a little bit with that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, very, very good point. Yeah, I feel like especially these two knights are kind of stepping on each other's toes. Perhaps they both want to go to d7 and e5, so it makes a lot of sense to actually trade one of them off, and then maybe send the other knight to d7 and e5, rook d8 on the board. Perhaps now just a5. Try to nibble away at black's queen side.
And a5 is kind of an interesting move there. Can you talk about the reason that you wouldn't just want to take the pawn?
Well, if black takes, then white's going to win the pawn back very quickly with bishop c3 and bishop takes a5, and then black's entire pawn structure is shattered. So I think we shouldn't be too worried about b takes a5. So I would go a5 here, probably take on b6, and then rook a7 with some ideas. So that's what I would do. Let's see what Eric is going to do here.
Yeah, and he's definitely making that decision here, taking his time, but he's up on time, which is good. He can take it. He can take his time because he has about 30 seconds to spare over Nicolas here.
Mm-hmm. Right, Jules. But let's go back to the bird's eye view, as things are definitely heating up in one game. I feel like this board number 2 is looking really critical for Krishna. Look at this. He is not really developed. And Pula Batla bring all of his pieces out. He's castled, bishop on d4, bishop on g4. And White's completely stuck with that king on e1. So I really don't like what Nathan is doing there. And yeah, perhaps a big opportunity for Venkata to get a point for his team. Let's go to that game.
Yeah, that is
Venkata,
interesting, and this came out of a London.
right, yes. So Venkata doing well on the board, but again, struggling on the clock. He's down to 2.5 minutes against 4 minutes from Krishna. So I feel like this is going to be a crucial game in the match.
Yeah, and I don't know, this is very uncomfortable because you want to get developed, but now that knight is kind of stuck there. There's no g3 ideas to where you could free up your bishop. I mean, you need several moves to get castled.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see what will happen. I mean, Venkata having a great position, but his time is worrying me. He's down to 2 minutes. I feel like if he wins this game, I see Rice winning the match. But let's say he gets into time pressure and blunders. I think Illinois is going to take it. He goes 94, which makes sense, but the computer's saying like, hey, after f3, all of a sudden white would be better.
And that's kind of an interesting idea. Maybe after knight takes bishop, then you can just take with the h-pawn and you have that open file. So maybe being uncastled wouldn't be such a big deal.
Yeah, and that's what Krishna plays. f3, good move. Black probably has taken g3, and as you rightly pointed out, I think white's happy to recapture with the h-pawn, because you still want to get rid of that bishop on d4, and after you get rid of the bishop, then your king has a pretty safe square. On g2, your bishop can come out of d3, where you said coupled with the rook on h1, it would be putting some pressure on h7. So Krishna possibly taking over here.
Yeah, but he's thinking, because I guess he's also a little tempted to finally get his knight free after so many moves of trying not to trying to get castled. But it almost makes more sense to be a little bit aggressive here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the bishop on d4 is so annoying. So I think you should take the h-pawn, as you pointed out, then get rid of the bishop on d4, and white's doing pretty well. But Jules, there's a lot of developments in the other games. So let's go to the bird's eye view. It looks like Rice is doing amazing on boards 3 and 4. Burglar is crushing it against Shaw. He's up 2 pawns, and Xu is having a lot of space against Devi Prasad. So I don't know. This match is coming down to the wire.
Anything could happen here, and these positions are really, really interesting. I think everyone's going full out here. Yeah, is there any game in particular that you think is going to get very sharp soon?
Yeah, let's go to this game between Jacob and Kai Shah, as I think Jacob, I mean, he should have this one in the back. He's up 2 pawns. He just traded on d7. Black now has to take. Rook d7, rook f7. It feels like there's got to be a win for white. I mean, even like taking e6. I mean, Jacob's so close to a full point here for his team.
And oh, there's actually a kind of interesting line there that I think they're looking at. Because if queen takes g7, perhaps rook d7, and I feel like rook f7 should work, but maybe there's a follow-up. Do you see it?
Yeah, so queen takes g7 is absolutely forced here. Then rook d7, rook f7. Let's see. Okay, so let's make some moves on the board. Rook d7, rook f7. I was thinking maybe like take, e6, hitting the queen. You have to keep defending the knight, so probably like here. e7, still rook e8. I mean, this feels so close to winning for a while, but there's still like queen here or here, so not completely over just yet. And that is perhaps why Jacob has paused to think. He feels like there's got to be a win, but where is it?
I mean, you could also just trade and pick up another pawn. I mean, there are a lot of options here. He's got a lot of options, but when you think you have the win, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. Actually, maybe you don't pick up the pawn because rook f7, but still, I don't know. Your rook is super active. You can double up. You're pretty happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Jacob definitely still having a big advantage here, but it felt better to perhaps trade off the rooks instead of trading off the queens. He goes g3. At least Shaw is still alive. Maybe, like knight d5. Let's see if Jacob will finish this off or if Kai can pull off a miracle escape. Wow, Jules, there are some developments in the other game. So let's go back to the bird's eye view. So we see on board number 1, Eric Zhang having a big advantage. But I don't know what Nathan is doing. He had to get rid of that bishop on d4, but he played the original move, rook h4. Now black goes rook e8. Wait, so why can you not take... Okay, you can take on d4 now, followed by king f2, I suppose.
Are we looking at board 2?
Yes, we're looking at board 2. So let's pull.
Maybe
Let's go back to that game. I mean,
because that is such an interesting game here.
It is, but that bishop on d4 has to go. Why doesn't he just take it?
Maybe he's a little bit worried about... Well, what is he worried about? Because there is that safe square on f2, and it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look at this. Venkata down to 20 seconds on his clock. This game is pretty important for the match. Let's see if he can hold it together. Take on d4. You have to take.
You have to take. And that should have just been pre-moved, honestly. But
exactly.
Here, I don't know. He has to keep up the time. His time management is not doing super well right now. He's obviously a very strong player, but it seems like he's taking time on moves that should just be instant.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, e takes d4 should have been played instantly or even been pre-moved. Now white's up a pawn. Still, the king on f2 is a little airy, but black's down to 7 seconds. So let's see how Krishna will try to put this game away. c5, opening up the c4 square for his bishop. c4. Krishna has to win this game for his team.
Yeah, and it's still live. This position's still live, but he has to be moving instantly. And with 5 seconds to a minute, that is so difficult. You just don't want to hang anything, but that bishop on c4 is protecting a lot.
Yeah, it's covering the e2 square, putting pressure on f7. Krishna also dropping below a minute, so it's far from over. Let's see what he will do. Rook d6, queen e7, I suppose. You have to keep defending f7. He goes bishop b6 instead.
And just keeping things simple makes a lot of sense. And also, if Krishna gets down on time too, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more even. But yeah, this position definitely looks like it's being simplified a little bit.
Yeah, but only up 1 pawn for Krishna, so it's still far from over. Still hard to convert. As again, this king on f2 is a little airy. King g8 perhaps a bit safer. I'll be very happy here with white if he can somehow trade the queens off. So Venkata would have to stop that. But 25 seconds for Krishna. c2, maybe h4.
With a mate threat.
Oh, okay. Wait, I think you're still happy, though, to get a pair of rooks off the board, as then you can never get mated anymore. Check.
Yeah, and I thought for a second he'd hung a mate there, too, but just the double up helps a little bit with that. But trading pieces, as you said, can be a good strategy, but sometimes in blitz, you're not exactly sure you can convert with a pawn up.
Yeah, but I think he really should trade, as it should make it easier to convert. King h7, clever move. Making sure that queen e4 will not trade the queens off. Yeah, that's a...
Oh! A repetition!
It's a threefold. Yeah, that was not good. Big draw there for Rice, as I think Rice is crushing it on the other board. So let's go back to the bird's eye view. On board 1, the La Colina is completely winning against Eric Zhang. On board 3, Burglar is winning against Shaw. Devi Prasad has to win for his team. That is a crucial game in the match. Let's see if he can do it. The position is equal over there.
So perhaps we should take a look at that since that is the critical game here, especially since black just won on the first board. And he doesn't know that this is needed, but of course he's still gonna try his best there. But yeah, 33 seconds to 14 seconds, even in an even endgame, anything can happen.
Yeah, very double-edged game here. So white has the extra exchange, but black has a couple of pawns. So we'll see what's going to happen as both players are getting lower and lower on time. Rook c3 played, but perhaps you take a knight e2. And how do you defend the pawn on c3? Just b5?
I don't know.
Okay, one hitting the pawn, perhaps just a4.
A4,
Push.
simple.
Gotta move, gotta move.
Gotta move. 3 seconds.
Gotta
He
move.
needs to move. Oh, trying something a little bit tactical here, but maybe not the simplest option. Now rook takes a5.
Oh,
Okay,
that was
now
a nice
a4 just
move.
defend.
And rook a7. Knight e1 played, a4 pushed up. He's gonna flag.
Oh, did he flag? Oh,
And look at that reaction from Stefan. I mean, you just had to move. Why did he not move? He's saying like, I moved. I moved.
And maybe being so relaxed on your bed is not the best option. I don't know. But he sometimes you just lose track of your clock. You just forget about your clock. And that was a huge win for Stefan there.
Yeah, so right now it is Rice that's clutching it out. I think they're even ahead in the match, and they're completely winning on this final board. I mean, unless Jacob flags or mouse slips, Rice is going to win the match. They're up 8-7. They only need a draw, and it's completely winning.
Oh, and once he sees that, he's going to be so upset. But sometimes those flags happen, which is why you have to keep up on time. It's hard to manage your time all of the time. But yeah, with 9 seconds, I think this might go to Rice.
Yeah, no, it's going to go to Rice. I mean, unless a miracle happens here, but I don't see it happening. A3, but anything is winning. Take on a3 or take the knight. Takes the knight, and this match is about to be over.
And we see it. That is a victory for Rice there. And you can see everyone's checking the score. They're seeing what happened. And we'll take a quick look at those results when they get updated. But I don't know. What a comeback from Rice, who was originally down 2 points that first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, incredible comeback from Rice. They fought their hearts out. And yeah, some unfortunate games for Illinois. But look at this. What a comeback in the final round. Winning 3.5 half. And winning this match 9-7.
What a huge comeback. And as we can see, Nicolas clutching it there on board one, and just they almost swept the entire round. It was just a beautiful, beautiful game, a beautiful match. Congratulations to Rice, and you're going to want to stay with us because we have some interesting matches. But for now, we have some interesting content for you during the break chat. CCL Commissioner Joe Lee sat down with Ella Papanek, a trader at Susquehanna, on the College Chess podcast last fall season. Ella shared some helpful career advice for those who are beginning their job search, so take a listen to this week's Career Opportunities Highlight, brought to you by Susquehanna.
Where you are now, former Harvard alumni, CCL captain, working at Susquehanna. We have a lot of chess players, especially college chess players, tuning in. What kind of advice would you give them for both like their chess career, their studying, or even just a normal career? What advice would you have if they're looking to get into like a job after they graduate?
Yeah, so I would say do the things that you find interesting and fun. I never tried to kind of formally prepare myself to be good at a specific career and sort of force myself to learn about that career. I feel like I was into sports, and I was studying statistics, so I thought about how can I apply statistics to sports, thinking about sports data. I always liked chess, and so I played a lot of chess, tried to get involved in as many chess-related things as I could. And that kind of led me the right way, led me to meet the people who would then be involved in my career and sort of lead me to Susquehanna. And so I think if you don't like what you're doing, it's very, very hard to be successful at it. And so I would say focus on the things you enjoy. In the case of of chess as a game, which I assume anyone listening is probably a big chess player. I think chess creates good decision-making processes and kind of reinforces that. And so I would say study chess, focus on chess if you enjoy it. I don't think it's a waste of time. I know a lot of people say, it becomes very esoteric and you're just memorizing lines that are not broadly applicable. But I think chess has a lot of skills that translate into the business world as well. Making decisions under pressure, trying to manage your time appropriately across a game, like thinking about time allocation. Like you have, let's say, 90 minutes to allocate across all of your moves this game. Where do you want to actually spend that time? Relying on your own intuition for when is there a tactic? When are you going to try to find it? When should you give up on that particular tactic and just assume you need to try to find your advantage elsewhere in the game? A lot of the times in time pressure, you're going to have to synthesize a large amount of information at once, and you're not going to be able to calculate everything. And so you're going to need to decide, like, what are the important things to calculate, or how can you summarize that information in your mind and use that summary to make a decision? And so all this stuff translates into many, many fields, but trading in particular, I would say when you're trading, you need a lot of the time to synthesize a large amount of information into the key factors. You need to be comfortable making decisions under pressure. And so I think pursuing chess is good for your career, I would say. And then for us, like at Susquehanna, we love games. We love game theory. We love strategy. And so if that is something that you enjoy thinking about, I think that is very applicable to trading.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CCL. We are here with our second match, Arizona versus ASU. So we have a little bit of a rivalry here. I think this one's going to be fun. Any predictions, Ben?
Absolutely. I know this match is going to be a thriller. Two pretty exciting teams. So I don't know. Who do you think is going to win, Jules?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to take a closer look at those ratings that we're going to see shortly. But guys, remember the match format's the same. It's 5+2, first to 8.5 points. So I know everyone's going to be really geared up and ready. And yeah, we'll take a look at these ratings shortly and see who our predictions will be.
Yeah, so we have the board pairings right here. So let's see. Arizona has Devin, Karan, Quinn, Fahad. So looking at these ratings, Jules, looks pretty even to me. Arizona having a high-rated board 1, but perhaps ASU a little bit more well-rounded. So I don't know. This match can really go either way.
No, that's absolutely true. And you can have a higher rated board 1, but sometimes actually these more evenly rated teams do better. So you never know. I think, I'm not sure what my prediction would be, but it actually, I think maybe I'll go with Arizona for now, but maybe that could change. But we're going to see the board 1 versus board 4, board 2 versus board 3, and so on and so forth. So I'm not exactly sure who I would root for, but if you have anyone you'd root for in chat, let us know.
Yeah, I'd also give a slight edge to Arizona. So let's see what's going to happen. Their board 1 they have the potential to maybe go 4-0, right? And that would help their team a lot. Of course, it's very difficult because they don't have like a massive rating advantage over the other players. So let's see if he can do it.
Yeah, and as we've seen, sometimes the ratings aren't entirely accurate. Like one player could really gear up and do very well under the pressure of being on stream, while other players maybe being on stream freaks them out a little bit. So you never know until it gets started, or if they play blitz a lot, or if they're more of a rapid person. But I know that they have these boards organized this way for a reason, and it will be a lot of fun. I always love looking at some of these lower division matches.
Right. Yeah. So we're moments away from the match starting. And yeah, no, you make a good point that some of these players can get a little nervous about their match being broadcasted. They might call up, their friends and family, and they're like, "Hey, we finally made it to the CCL broadcast." Might give them a little bit of extra energy, but it also might make them more nervous. But it's nice that we give a lot of these schools the opportunity. We give them the spotlight.
Absolutely, and I've told the story before, but my first time playing on a stream, I was really nervous, and I had the whole chess team from my school watching, and everyone was really amping us up, and that helped. That's why I think it's kind of interesting, like, if some of the players choose to play together in the same space, sometimes that will help, but other times that just makes people nervous. So you have to know yourself and know if you perform very well under pressure, if you don't, and kind of adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so we'll see what's going to happen. Yeah, this match should start shortly. We're waiting for the games to get underway. I guess perhaps they're going through some checks.
I see someone in chat said "Go Owls." You'll have to help me out. Which one are the owls?
I have
Which team's
no
owls?
idea. And somebody says "Go Cats." I have no idea who the cats are and who the owls are.
Okay, Rice's Owls, they already won. Okay. So it's like a little bit of a delayed victory. Congratulations there. And I see the games are off on their way, and we have e4, e5.
Yeah, and we have a London system on board 1 between Shah and Robert. So c5. Let's see what Devin has in mind. There's a lot of ways to tackle the London system. One way to do the most aggressive way, in my humble opinion, is to go for knight c6 and queen b6. Target that pawn on b2 very quickly, as it's always a little awkward for white to deal with that. He goes for queen b6 right away. Now, I believe white's best move is knight c3, sacrificing the pawn, because if you take, there's knight b5, but Rikian has paused the thing, so perhaps he's not completely familiar with the theory here.
Yeah, and just going into the aggressive line here is interesting. Okay, so we've learned that Arizona is the Wildcats and ASU is the Sun Devils. Okay, noted here. And I'm assuming this is a rivalry, because usually when you have teams or schools from the same place, they tend to be rivals, but maybe someone knows a little bit better there. Joe asked, does Zabak have any channel points left for this prediction?
I do, but I lost 250k channel points on that last match. So that was, that hurt. Anyway, b3 by Rikian on the board. Let's see what Devin is going to do. Now, b3 is usually not the way to meet queen b6. Now, black should have a very fine position. Bishop g4 is fine. Knight c6 as well. So Devin already having a comfortable position. I mean, this one is going to be close, but I'd give the edge to Arizona. So I'll wait for the chat to... Wait, so it says university. ASU is Arizona State, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the odds are always skewed because I'm the
Arizona.
only one putting up a lot of channel points, so that also doesn't help.
Well, I used to have a lot, and then I lost it all. So you have my channel points now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but that move b3 usually is done when someone's a little afraid of queen taking b2, when you're not exactly sure if the queen can take, because in a lot of lines like this, the queen can't take on b2. A lot of lines they can. So if you're not exactly sure, you just need a good way to meet it, and there's really no great way to meet it.
Yeah, so he goes knight b2, but black should really be doing quite fine here. Knight c6. There's already options of taking on d4, followed by, let's say, bishop b3, which can be pretty annoying, threatening bishop b2 and the rook on a1 and the pawn on c3. Looks pretty good to me. So we'll see if Devin is going to go for that. And Jules, as we speak, there's also already another game underway. The game between Fahad. So we have the bird's eye view. Yeah, the game on board 4 also has started. There we also have a London system.
Russ Linden, thank you so much for the prime. Appreciate it. Okay, so this is a But it's a London system from a different team. So I was wondering if maybe all the teams play the same openings. You know, you play each other and you pick up each other's openings. That happens sometimes. Hence what we saw with that A6 nonsense last game. But here, no, it's just some unique London system. And maybe it's also because you see London system a lot at this level. It's something you face a lot because it's really easy to just autopilot. And when you can autopilot something, you pick up time, which is crucial in Blitz.
Mm-hmm. All right, so yeah, no, the London system very easy to play. That's why a lot of people like it. So we'll see how this game is going to develop. Here we also see quick Queen B6 hitting the pawn on B2. So let's see how White will deal with that. I don't know, a little uncomfortable because we also have this tension between the bishops. Maybe here you're going to have to go for a move like B3. Trades on G6. You want to recapture towards the center, and now perhaps Queen B3 or Queen C2 should be played.
Yeah, it's a definite possibility. And we have word that we have the ASU captain in chat with Subham, so everyone's watching. You know, the pressure is on. They have to do their best there.
Nice.
They know that people are watching. But yeah, as we see it all on the board here, and the other games are going to be starting up shortly. Maybe they'll be playing the London as well.
Right. On the bird's eye view, we can see that Sanjay opened the game with 1e4, and we see the Alekhine by Patel. So inviting that pawn up to e5. Sanjay has paused the thing, though. But you really only have two. Okay, goes e5, now knight d5. But that's already a good sign for Patel.
Yeah, when it starts like this, whenever I see this, I like to go...
Wait! Let's go to board one. What is happening there, Jules?
What? Oh, let's take a look. Sometimes we've got the action. What is happening here?
This is a completely normal position. Black plays c takes d4. White plays e takes d4, leaving the bishop hanging. Black doesn't take it. Rook ac8, and White leaves the bishop hanging again. Take the bishop.
Oh, I guess no one saw the bishop was hanging, and then finally they see it's hanging, and the rook takes. I mean, this is just like if you don't see it, you don't see it. What are you going to do? And now he has to come back. You see him taking time, because sometimes when you hang a piece, you have to take a second to recalibrate and be like, okay, what did I do? How do I come back? But he just needs to keep up on time.
Yeah, sometimes in these games, like sometimes there's a piece hanging for like many moves in a row, and they're like, wait, how long was that even hanging? Anyway, G3 was played. Now just slide the rook back. But yeah, this has to be a win for Devin. He's up a piece here. He just needs to finish it off.
Yeah, and I know a game yesterday I had a Botez Gambit double declined. So sometimes people just don't see it and hang things back and forth. But yeah, here he just has to keep up on time, create pressure. The only issue, or one of the many issues of this position, is sometimes you hang a piece in a way that gives you a little bit of compensation, but here there's pretty much no compensation for White. In fact, it looks pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just a full piece. Maybe Devin is even looking at rook takes f3, followed by knight takes d4. Certainly possible, but just, keep playing a logical move, and the game really should win itself as you're up a full piece. So we'll see how this will develop. But Jules, let's go back to the bird's eye view, as now all of the games are underway. So Roberts is winning on the blue board on the left, then on the purple board, Sanjay on board 2. Perhaps a bit better against Patel, but down on time. On board 3, things looking pretty even between Komar and Marmolejo. And on board 4, also, the green board, things also looking pretty even between Assam and Kara. So, I don't know, this first round can really go either way.
Yeah, it could definitely go either way. I think board 3 could be a little bit interesting to take a look at. So that one might be worth looking into.
Yeah, no, I like Brian's position. He's playing a bit of a reverse Grand Prix attack, and he can now go for like Queen H5, F4, Bishop H3, Knight G4, all of the good stuff, trying to attack on the king side. Practically, this looks uncomfortable for Rook D1. The computer doesn't like that. Just Queen H5 and attack, and there he goes.
And there isn't really a great way to defend this that doesn't give up a lot, which is probably why, if anything, that move makes it a little bit more uncomfortable. And sometimes in these Grand Prix attacks, when you have time, you want to go for some, like, I don't know, queenside pawn pushes. But here you have nothing like that. You just kind of have to defend against any sort of mate threats.
Yep. Well, you first had to defend the knight, but he doesn't do that. Just take the knight at e2. Ryan's probably thinking, like, wait, is there anything? If you can take a piece and you don't see why you shouldn't take, then you should take. It's just a free knight. Just take it.
If he sees it.
Yeah, but I mean, he just played
maybe
queen
he
h5.
thinks takes and then...
There's no way to trap the queen.
I mean, it
Just
might
take
be
it's a
what
free
he's
knight.
looking at right here, but yeah, there is no way to trap the queen, and
This is division 13, by the way, for anyone wondering, so there will be some piece hangs like this. Just a free knight.
D13. There's so many divisions here in CCL, and we always love seeing them. You know, I don't think he sees it. That would be my prediction. I don't think he sees it. Otherwise, I think he would have played it a little bit faster. Unless he's a little bit worried about, like, some sort of, I don't know, rook f1 things. But even then, he can probably see that he can just move his queen back. So
Yeah,
I think he doesn't see it.
I'd like to think that he saw, but he's just double, triple checking. Knight g4, missing a free piece. Okay, he's turning checkmate, but now just h3.
Yeah, h3, and now the knight is forced to move. And now, if you see your pieces hanging, move it or protect it. But does he see his pieces hanging?
His knight is hanging. You have to deal with it. Let's see if white sees it now.
Yeah, he does see it. Okay, so he just had a moment of heart attack where he noticed his piece was hanging and he was like, oof, that was a close one. And now I bet Brian sees it too, but just get rid of that knight on that outpost. Knight takes e4, simple.
Yeah, but pretty interesting stuff here is now he's opening on the bishop towards the h3 point. The computer's saying white should play g4, but if black is feeling aggressive, he's just gonna sack.
But the sacrifice when you have that bishop on g2, sometimes it's not the soundest move, just because you do have that extra layer of protection, but it could definitely be an option, especially since that bishop on c1 is not developed yet.
Yeah, no, bishop takes g4 an option here. If you don't want to go for the sacrifice, there's also queen h4 followed by h5, trying to open up white's king side that way. You goes queen h6, but now you can't ever go h5, so now it feels like white should be pretty safe. I think now white has a time to perhaps develop the like bishop d2 or maybe queen c2 and round of the pawn on e4.
Yeah, queen c2 makes a lot of sense because there isn't really a strong way to defend. But we see f5 here. We see f5, which I guess just trying to push the pawns forward. But his king is more exposed than Brian's king there. So sometimes those aggressive pawn pushes when your own king is more exposed don't always work.
Right, so we see the computer's pointing out g6. Again, just trying to open up files towards that enemy king. Here's the thing. For the moment, black is doing well, and that's why that evil bar is in black's favor. But if black doesn't act quickly, white has a few trumps. First of all, these pawns on e5 and e4 can be quite weak, especially the pawn on e4. And white also has the bishop pair. That is why black has to act quickly with moves like g6. So let's see if he senses the moment.
I mean, g6 is a pretty difficult move to play if you're a little bit worried about your king side. So I don't know if we're going to see that, but I definitely think maybe he'll just try to... move his queen out, but now you have e4 hanging, and everything's kind of coming together for Quinn here.
Right, but he's preparing h5, so this move definitely makes some sense. So, yeah, let's see what is going to happen. Let's see what Quinn is going to do. I feel like practically this may be a bit easier to play for Brian. If he gets h5 in, then he can get a big attack against white's king.
Yeah, he just has to be willing to do that. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but I think he definitely could be willing to do that. And the time is pretty even. Quinn takes on e4 here and h5 right away. Okay. Yeah, we see it. We see it. It's difficult to find the best way to defend. Maybe just bringing your queen back. I at first was looking at bringing the rook up, but then that just hangs. That could hang something eventually.
Right, the computer, the blue arrow, is pointing out bishop takes c6. You might be wondering, what is the idea? But the idea is in case black recaptures, white can then go e3, e4, hitting that queen on h5, bring the bishop into the game, the queen as well, and supporting the pawn on f5 once more. But there's already one game in the books. Arizona took the lead because Derek won his game on board number 1. We saw that game earlier where a free piece was just taken. Bishop 3. Oh, e4 is a really nice move, stopping e4 from white. But that's not easy at all. He can also go for something like bishop takes f5 and walk right into e3, e4 from white.
And we have a question in chat about which board is which university. You'll see the boards with the A over it next to the name. That is Arizona. And with the trident next to it, that is ASU. So they're not all on the same board there, but you can see with what's next to the name. Yeah, but yeah, now this game is heating up a little bit here. All the games are heating up, actually.
Yeah, Brian played e4, but we're back to the bird's eye view. So let's see. Roberts won on board number 1. On board number 2, Arizona is doing well, putting a lot of pressure along that F file. ASU doing well on board number 3, and Arizona winning on board 4. So we're probably looking at a 3-1 lead for Arizona after this first round.
Well, it's possible, but look at the time pressure on the boards. With such little time, really anything can happen, especially, I don't know, on the fourth board, it looks pretty solid
on board
for white,
4,
but
things are
people
just
can still
over.
hang things.
Let's go to that game, as Fahad is just pushing that pawn down the board. There's nothing you can do about c8 queen. You're not even getting a rook, as you lose that rook right away, and Fahad wins. So right now, Arizona, I keep being confused, takes a 2-0 lead. Let's go back to the bird's eye view. As things are heating up again, that game between Brian and Quinn, I really like what Brian is doing, to be honest. I mean, some really nice attacking moves. He's ripping open white's kingside. The knight is jumping into the action. So let's go to that game. I think he's doing great here. Bishop takes f5, perhaps. Really nice stuff here by Brian.
But in this division, there is still life on the board. Yes, the king side is falling apart, but you still have to be a little bit careful. You know, just one piece hang and a comeback is in the books. I mean, yeah, now queen takes g4 does not feel very good, because you can't defend with queen g2, which was probably what he was relying on. But if you defend with queen g2, you just lose the rook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, queen takes g4. But he has paused the thing. Maybe he missed, when his queen was on h5, he missed a hanging knight on e2. He's not going to miss a hanging rook on d1 now, right? But let's see.
Oh.
Should be too obvious.
Oh, and he doesn't see it, but now it's up for Quinn to see it too. Maybe if he can just trade the queens, something easy, something simple, then, you know, he's still in the game. He's still alive. But that's a difficult move to make.
And I put my channel points on Quinn. Quinn is playing for Arizona, so I'm actually happy about this. He still has chance to hold, as now he's only down a pawn.
Yeah, I mean, the bishop could come to f3, and then that's a great square for the bishop to be, because you have to worry about all these mate threats. If the rook can reroute itself to h1, I don't know, it's not super easy to get developed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but indeed, rook f6 or rook f5 to g5 or h5 looks like a really nice idea for black. Or, what about this? Rook a5, swinging that rook over. So black's doing fantastic here, but Brian still has to finish it off. It's only one extra pawn. Let's see if he can do it. In the corner of my eye, by the way, I see that Arizona is also crushing it on board number 2. So they're probably going to be taking a 3-0 lead. So this is a must-win game for Brian to keep his team in the match.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to keep his team in the match. It's very, very important here. And, you know, it does look great, but anything can happen. You just want to make sure you're not hanging anything too crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So nice moves here. Rook g2 is nice, or rook f8. Going for a big attack on the white king, even in the endgame. He goes rook g2. Okay. Good move. I guess
just move the bishop.
Has to move.
I mean, it's nice to keep that bishop on that diagonal in case of any rook checks. You're not hanging your rook, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Subham, a player of ASU, is not happy to watch this match. Oh, c5.
Ooh.
Looked like it was forking the rook and the bishop, but rook d2 keeping queen in this game. Completely, actually, as now he's also getting the rook off the board. I mean, there's real chance here for white to hold bishop c3 here and here and here.
Now you have to be a little bit careful, because you're losing a pawn in a lot of your defense, but you have to move quickly, because right now your best shot is just moving fast and hoping for the best. Okay, moving the king up, trying to go for some checks. I like it. All right, then maybe rook g1.
What? This?
I don't know, and now you don't even have the rook takes threat. I think this might go to Brian, but 6 seconds on the clock is really hard for Quinn to follow through with check, and you lose the bishop, which he sees this time.
Yeah. All right, so now Quinn's only chance is maybe Brian flagging or a stalemate. But Brian should have this one in the back, because he's up a bishop and 4 pawns.
Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be GG's. You just push the pawn and you're happy, but yeah, Brian's up on time too. It's going to be very, very difficult to hold this. I think he's just going to keep it solid, keep pushing. You have to have a little bit of technique here, which he seems to, and Yeah, it's all going to be going downhill. You can just probably go C2.
Let's see if I can still somehow manufacture a stalemate here. I mean, I don't know. My name is not Eric Rosen. He for sure would find a way. 10 seconds for Brian, though. He's got to move. Wait, don't do it. Okay, there goes a pawn.
Okay.
There goes the rook, but he's...
I mean, even if you take it, it still wouldn't really help that much. And we see it. Brian won here. I mean, that was quite the game. There was a lot of free pieces all over the board, but he did manage to pull through there. So we see Arizona 3-1 ASU, but that was the same comeback that we saw from Rice last match, so it's still possible.
Yep. No, a 3-1 lead for Arizona is a strong start for them. But ASU in this match due to Brian winning his game with the black pieces. Smooth game. Nothing, a smooth game from start to finish.
Nothing too exciting happened there. No, just very, very smooth, casual game. But as we see, ASU is going to need to make a big comeback there, especially the board 1 lost to board 4. You know, that can be a little dispiriting, so they're going to have to really bring it back.
Yeah, all right. So let's see how they will do in the second round. The players are getting ready. But yeah, like you said, I think a big win for Arizona there was the board 4 taking down the board 1. But it's only one round and 2 points. I mean, it might seem like a lot, but it's definitely doable.
It is very doable there. We saw it come back from last match where Rice was down, and then they managed to come back. So definitely possible. The games are going to be starting very, very shortly, and they are off with D4 on both boards.
Yep, so we see Devin against Sanjay opening with 1d4. Let's see what Devin is going to do. In the last game, he faced the Queen's, he faced the London system, but he opens up with d4 and c4, like intended to play the Nims Indian, but he goes knight f3. So let's see, now d5, going back into the Queen's game, declined. Very solid stuff.
QGD, and a lot of times you put your bishop on e7, but we'll see what lines he decides to go for here.
Yeah, he goes bishop b4, the Ra goes in, one of the possible lines, bishop g5. And let's see now, often, black can go for h6. Okay, knight c6 and knight's often a bit misplaced here, as you want to challenge right center with c5. Often you actually rather develop the knight to the d7 square.
And I mean, one of the reasons behind that is so you eventually have like a c5 push, you can play c6 if needed, but here the pawn is a little bit stuck. It's not exactly where you want to be, but this is not crucial. In the game of this rating, it's not the biggest deal, although sometimes having a slightly uncomfortable position makes you take more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, not the biggest deal at all. I mean, white having a slight advantage, but anything can still happen. But if it's also a position that's difficult to play, that could make you spend a lot of time. But Jules, almost all of the games are underway, so perhaps we can go to the bird's eye view. So we see here the game between Roberts and Sanjay. That's a Queen's game of decline. And on board 2 we have a French. And then on the brown board, Kara against Kamar. Looks like an exchange Caro. And then on board 4, Marmalade O'Brien. Again, going for the Grand Prix attack.
I mean, I think that's a great option here, especially in Blitz. If someone's like, what should I play against a Sicilian when I'm at, I don't know, under 2,000 rated on Chess.com, I would say Grand Prix is usually a pretty strong option. Because you get a nice attack. It's hard to defend.
Right. Yeah, Hikaru often plays it in Blitz and Bullet, and he's, especially in Bullet, he's just blowing people off the board. But let's go to that game, as I really like what Fahad is doing. He went for a quick e6 and d5 push in the middle, neutralizing the bishop. And now this pawn on f4 looks a little bit off. Why went bishop b5, pinning the knight on c6?
Yeah, and you want to be a little bit careful here. But it looks like he's faced the Grand Prix a lot, and that's what happens since so many players do play the Grand Prix. A lot of people have their favorite lines against it. But yeah, I do like what he's doing here as well.
There's some really solid opening play here by Fahad. Perhaps Fahad is a bit underrated. He took down a board 1 in the last round. Let's see if he can do some more damage. I mean, I like his opening here against Brian. So he's doing well so far.
And it's also great to have someone who's a little bit underrated, just because people also underestimate you a little bit. So they might not look for the best moves against him, but maybe after they saw him take down the board 1, they might be thinking a little bit differently. because Brian's definitely taking his time here. I don't know. Those queenside pawn pushes are gonna be pretty nice for black there.
Right, so Brian going d4, grabbing more space in the middle and stopping black from going d5, d4, opening up the bishop on c6. Black doing really well here. Black having a nice bishop pair, and now also black can later on put that knight on e4, and you can never push that knight away as you don't have d3 or f3 available. So Fahad holding a lot of trumps here in this position.
And, it's pretty clear that Fahad or us too would not want to trade that pawn. But can you tell us why black would just not want to take that pawn?
Well, if you take on d4, then you have an isolated pawn on d5. On the upside, though, your bishops have a little bit more scope, so you can also go c4 here, or maybe b6, because then after b6 and white takes and you recapture, you keep control over all of these central squares. So let's see what Fahad is going to do.
And he's taking his time. It might be one of those things that we talked about earlier where when there's lots of options, sometimes that's actually a bad thing. You don't want all of the options on the board a lot of times. But he needs to move. He cannot get down on time. He can't get super low on time. And sometimes you actually see these people are a little lower rated despite them playing very well because they do have these habits that get them low on time.
Exactly. So rook e8, good move by him, bringing the rook into the game. But yeah, I feel like especially at this level, a lot of mistakes happen as the players get low on time. Bishop b5 now is a nice move, perhaps hitting the knight. I can still meet it with rook e1, but it's definitely Fahad who's having a nice initiative here.
Who's pushing, and you can tell he's a strong player. Maybe he's even an over-the-board player who plays a little bit less, kind of getting those vibes right now, because especially with the time dwindling down a little bit, he does not want to be under a minute with against his opponent.
Right, so he does decide to take on d4, but now white has a nice square for his knight. And it's not as easy now to take advantage of the bishop pair that you have. Bishop d7 to g4, bishop c5, also a nice move. It's just king h1 here, and that's what he plays, getting out of the diagonal. Feels like black is better, but for the moment, white's hanging on.
And you do have that nice kind of outpost on e4, queen coming into the game. I really love the moves Fahad's playing here. He does strike me as a very, very strong player so far. Yeah, and I don't know, that e4 square is just so juicy.
Yeah, just jump in with a knight. Just don't spend too much time. Like I said, he's playing a good game, but he's taking a little bit too much time. He's already down 90 seconds on the clock.
One of us. All right, someone else, I'm a noob. Is exchanging the bishop for a knight a good move? A lot of times people like to keep their bishop pair. So the bishop pair can be pretty important in the endgame. It depends on the position. If the position is a bit closed, a lot of times people prefer the knights. But here, I would say the bishop pair is pretty useful for black. What would you say, Ben?
Yeah, I'd say the bishops are very often better than knights. I'd say it's hard to attach a percentage to it, but I even heard this thing that, generally speaking, a bishop is worth like 3.5 and maybe a knight like 3.25. So the bishop is generally considered to be a bit better than the knight, and that's why black is also having the advantage here. So yes, definitely don't give up your bishops for knights unless you have a really good reason to do so.
Yeah, and especially since the knight can also hop back into that d4 square after taking with the bishop, and that is a pretty solid place for a knight to be. But Fahad needs to move quickly, and I don't know about that move because you are giving up your bishop pair.
Right, white can take, and then you have to accept double isolated pawns, but then knight f2 becomes an idea again, so he definitely still has the advantage. But Jules, let's go back to the bird's eye view, as there's a lot of action in the other games. We see on board number 1, Roberts against Sanjay. Roberts doing really well, having a nice bishop pair and more pawns in the middle. On board number 2, the purple board between Patel and Shaw, a really nice French for white. White also having the bishop pair and nice attacking prospects on the king side. On board 3, Kara for ASU, perhaps fighting back, as he's better against Komar. But Jules, if you look at all of these boards, it looks like maybe Arizona can win this round 3-1 as well.
I mean, it's definitely possible, but there's still a lot of life in these boards. I really think board 2 might be an interesting one there. But yeah, it just looks like, I don't know, anything could happen, and maybe we even had a comeback on board 1.
Yeah, Devin
But
just made a mistake there. He hung a pawn, and now Black's swinging his knight back to c3, hitting the bishop and the queen. Black is down on time, though, so we'll see what's going to happen. But this game can really go either way.
yeah, it definitely can go either way. I mean, especially at this level, even when you hang a piece, there are always comebacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so we see trade on d2 and a6, keeping that extra pawn. I would think that at some point White's going to try to do something with the center, but e4 right now runs to knight c3, hitting the queen and a pawn on e4.
And Devin does have a bit more time, which does matter a lot. He is the rating favorite as well here, but Rohit seems to be doing pretty decently.
Yeah, but he's getting low on time, 37 seconds. I guess now f6, sooner or later, kick that bishop away, as it's just going to have to move back to h2 or g3. But he seems a little hesitant to do so.
Yeah, because it does feel like a bit of a concession, but again, it's better than having that bishop just plant there for the rest of eternity. So that bishop's going to have to run back somewhere, and maybe, those pawn pushes could be an idea in the near future, but I'm not sure I would go about it just yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so now the Black king a little bit weakened on this diagonal, but you can drop your bishop back. Queen c4, that's a free knight. Double attack, and he finds it. Yeah, so that should be a win for Devin.
And, that is where the time comes in, and you just see his clock ticking away, and you just know he's like, ah. But it's hard to see some of those things when you're so low on time.
Yeah. Right, he's trading down now, but he's down a piece, so trades are perhaps not good. I mean, he's opening up White's king, with White's king sitting perfectly safe here on g2. The bishop is doing a good job covering a lot of squares. Black now wants to entomb that bishop with f4, so maybe it's a good idea to slide it to e5.
Yeah, and that's probably the idea behind his move here. And, Rohit just doesn't have a lot to go on here.
Mm-hmm. Now he goes queen d5 trying to fight, but he's also having 5 seconds on his clock, so it's tough. Why going f3, g4? Okay, he's trying to open things up, but again, this king should be pretty safe.
Yeah, he's doing what he needs to here. You have to find some sort of aggressive attack, but the king is very safe. Those double pawns are almost doing some good stuff here. Is able to take, and you can give checks, and maybe he'll hang something. Maybe you can try to double. Well, even doubling the rooks with that bishop doesn't really do too much.
No. Yeah, this bishop really controlling a lot of
just
key
needs to
squares.
move.
And yeah, Black almost flagged there. Black, he's going to flag. Yep, I called it. All right, so Devin wins his game, and he now has 2 points for his team.
Perhaps we should take a look at board 3 here as it is heated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game looks like it's about to be over between Kara and Kamar. White up a piece here and an attack, and Black is trying to attack, but I feel like, let's say after rook takes e6, this is just going to be one check, king e2, and the white king is safe.
Yeah, this almost feels like a sacrifice gone wrong, especially with the way the pawn structure is. But the king is very, very safe, and there isn't a great way to follow it up.
One no, though. Rook takes c6, there's queen h3 check, which I also missed, and you lose the rook, so it's not completely over yet. But the good thing for White is that even after you hang the rook, and you take on b5, you have so many pawns for the exchange.
But that's still probably the best option, although he's looking for the mate. He wants something else, but I think he just needs to take it.
You have to take the rook. There's nothing to think about, yeah.
Yeah, and with b takes b5, I mean, yeah, you do have that exchange, so you have to play this pretty carefully, but look at all those pawns, even with the exchange. That c pawn can just kind of march up. If that pawn's not doing the trick, the h pawn can march up. It's going to be really hard to defend everything.
Yeah, in the meantime, by the way, Brian won his game on board number 4, so big comeback for him there. So now it's 4-2 for Arizona. And the game between Patel and Shaw on board 2
Let's
can
check it
still
out. Yeah.
go. All right, let's go to the bird's eye view real quick. So we see that Brian has won on board 4, and on board 2, still anything can happen, but it looks like Shaw should have a big advantage with these 2 rooks on the second rank.
Yeah, and he has to be a little bit careful. They both do about their time, but it's Patel who is struggling with the time right now. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Black should just be winning here. He has his rook is super active, and he's picking up all of the pawns, and White also way down the clock.
I almost feel like, yeah, like maybe there is a tactic in the future when it comes to moving the rook to the open file, but it just doesn't work right now. You still have to find a way to finish this off, though.
Yep, goes bishop d5. Okay, rook e2. Okay, but now taking king c2. It's not over yet. Not the cleanest conversion. Okay, but you can just take here. The pawn is not hanging. Maybe just
Although,
this.
to be fair, you have time, yeah.
Walk the king in.
All right, just taking on b2, and that knight's actually doing some action there. It seems kind of out of play, but it is doing some stuff. You do want to be a little bit careful, though.
Okay, black has completely thrown this. Now it's just a draw, but still anything can happen as the players are low on time.
Yeah, anything could happen. You have to be a little bit careful. You don't want to allow the king to get too active. Like here, he has to make kind of an uncomfortable move, but b4 makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like how he's playing this. Just make sure that the king can't get over in time, and you're good.
Wait, but now king b4. Black enters the king side, but white takes his pawn on e6, and white's going to be much faster.
I don't think he even think he just thought that the king could get ahead and didn't see that the white's king can take on e6, and now it's just so fast. This is a total turnaround.
Yeah. Right, and white's just going to promote this pawn e6, and white's winning. So big turnaround, which makes sure that Arizona keeps the lead.
Wow, that is huge. And you want to make sure you don't hang anything, don't allow any promotion.
He still has to win, though. Does he know? He's already made this more difficult than it should have been, but it's still winning. It's very easy, by the way. Just you can always give up your queen for the pawn, and then pick up this pawn with your king.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to do that practically, but pick up the pawn, you promote, and I think you could pretty much resign on the spot.
Yeah. Aryan should have this one in the back. Maybe Rikin can still pull off a little stalemate trick. The Rosen trap is where, let's say, okay. White takes an h5 now, and that should be GG's. King out of the way, that's fine, and push the pawn to victory.
I mean, he's still trying for the stalemate trap. It does happen. But with increment, it's less likely.
Yep. All right, and I'm pretty sure that Karan knows how to checkmate with a king and queen against the king.
But we'll see the technique here. And sometimes you actually see some difficulties when you have to pre-move this. It can be a little bit difficult. But just give the king a few squares and move your own king in fast.
Yeah, bring the king, and that's what he's doing right now. And there we have the checkmate. All right, so big win for Karan Patel, giving Arizona a 5-3 lead against ASU.
Yeah, you have to give them a lead. But as we see, 5-3, Devin taking home the point, Karan Patel taking home the point, Kar taking home the point, and Brian taking home the point. So even round, but still Arizona is keeping the lead going into next round. I think it'll be really exciting to see what happens in the next couple rounds. We're definitely going to have to see some slightly different play. But for now, everyone's favorite weekly event, Titled Tuesday, just got doubly exciting, with more and more title players joining the likes of Hikaru, Magnus, and Jose Martinez in the weekly Blitz tournament. We've decided to double the prize pot for the first Titled Tuesday that reaches 1,000 players, which means players who finish in the top 30 will earn a cash prize. Will it happen next week? Use !2x in chat or visit go.chess.com/double for all the details. And with that, we'll see more of Arizona versus ASU right after the break.
My king is a little open, and I need to develop my pieces. How about pawn to a3 with the idea of pawn to b4 and then bishop b2, pressuring the e5 pawn?
Hey, I need your help with this puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. It's knight d5.
You think so?
Yeah, you either get a beautiful knight on d5 or black captures and gives you a strong pass pawn.
No way, the little guy will never survive without active pieces protecting him.
I'm just saying, I win positions like this all the time.
Hey, coach, we need your help.
What do we do in this position?
Oh, play bishop e3, develop the knight. This is a textbook case of a bishop-knight imbalance. You play b3, restricting the knight, and that sets the stage for a later pawn a4 when gaining some space on the queen side.
Oh, that's
Wow.
great. Thank you.
No worries. I'm International Master András Tóth. I'm presenting to you Jeremy Silman's masterpiece, The Amateur's Mind. In chess, in order to win games, we need to come up with masterful ideas, and that is exactly what this course is going to teach you about. We are going to weed out the faulty amateurish thinking, and we are going to replace it with masterful habits. And today, you are welcome to start this journey for free on Chessable.
Hello, I'm Grandmaster Pepe Cuenca, and today I bring you a spicy game from the Chessable Masters 2024 between Grandmasters San Sebastian and Wesley So. The battle kicks off with a Janowski defense in the Queen's Gambit. Now, after Queen to c7, Black prepares h6 followed by g5. So White wisely plays Queen to d2 to fortify f4. But then, Rook ac1 happens, a tactical disaster, since now after Bishop f4 and Knight c4, White's queen finds itself with too many responsibilities, trying to hold b2 and f4 at the same time. She can't handle the pressure, so White is forced to trade on c4, leaving the d4 pawn as an easy target. After a couple of moves and a rook exchange, Sebastian launches his knights towards Black's king, hoping for an attack, but let's be real, it's like throwing paper planes at a battleship. Then comes h5, kicking White's knight all the way back to the shameful h2 square, since f4 is hanging. Another rook trade happens, and White recovers material with knight e7 followed by knight takes e6, trying to stay in the game. But then Wesley plays queen to f5, a great move, stopping d5, protecting h5, and rolling out the carpet for his knight to jump into f4. Then, with a5, Black keeps marching forward like a chess terminator. After bishop g6, a nasty threat appears. Knight takes g2 followed by queen takes c2. Could White try to avoid that by playing knight e1? Nope. The brilliant queen takes d4 followed by knight e2 just wins the game. The game continued with queen d2, but then after knight takes h3, Black keeps collecting pieces like Pokemon. Knight f3 is a deadly threat now. At this point, White realizes that there is no escape from the double threat against f2 and d6 and throws in the towel. One small mistake and Wesley grabs you by the throat and never let you go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CCL. My name is Jules, and this is my co-host, Grandmaster Benjamin Buck. And we're here with Arizona versus ASU, and it's heating up. We're going to have to see if a comeback is on the table, or maybe the match will just be over. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, it's a close match. I mean, I think this one will be close for a while. Arizona is having a 5-3 lead, but ASU is showing that they're fighting. You know, they don't want to go down without a fight.
Absolutely not. They're going to try to come back, especially sometimes having a little bit of a break to reset is great for the players. Anything can happen. So we're going to take a quick look at the pairings for this round. As we see, we're going to have Devin versus Brian, Karen versus Kara, Quinn versus Riken, and Fahad versus Rohit. So the boards are getting a little bit closer, and ASU has white on the first two boards.
Yeah, perhaps that gives them a bit of an opportunity to strike back. Yeah, boards 1 playing boards 2, so boards 3 playing against boards 4. So The pairings are pretty close. Brian Marmolejo is, I think, doing pretty well in this match. So let's see what he can do with the white pieces. And again, he opens up with his beloved Grand Prix attack. Let's see what he can do against Devin. Wow, very quick F5 push.
Yeah, and I mean, you do need to know the best way to answer that, but it isn't the scariest if you do know. Taking a look here, you can kind of just take the pawn, and you don't have to be too worried.
Yeah, but interesting stuff from Brian. He sacrifices a pawn, he goes d3, he wants to go for some sort of attack. I don't know, in Blitz, this is always a little bit annoying to deal with, so I like the aggressive approach from Brian.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting, and Devin is taking a little bit of time to think. It is 5+2, which helps a little bit, but at the same time, that is not as much time as we think, as we've seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now he's already falling a minute behind on the clock, so we'll see what he's going to do. You can take an e4, but white's always going to recapture with the pawn. You can go knight to e7, then castle, so still a lot of tension. And yeah, white should get some attacking prospects here, so a bit annoying to deal with in Blitz for Devin.
Yeah, it could be a little bit annoying, and that's why we see him taking a lot of time to think. He's already a minute down on the clock, just trying to figure out what exactly do you do. And I mean, you kind of want to develop a little bit, but he's a bit afraid of leaving things hanging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what he will do. Let's go back. Let's go to the bird's eye view. Now all of the games are underway. So we see on board one between Marmolejo and Roberts on the blue board a Grand Prix attack. On board two between Kara and Patel. I think they started off as an Elekine, looking pretty even so far. On board three, the brown board between Komar and Shah, we see a Karakan. And on board four, the green board between SM and Sanjay, a London system. Sanjay went for a very quick c6. Maybe he wants to go for queen b6, hitting that pawn on b2, which again is a little awkward to protect.
Yeah, it can be a little awkward to protect, and I'm just laughing at the Chess.com chat right now. We have typos in the chat, typos on the board. I mean, blunders all around here, but yeah, it definitely looks like the games are going to be heating up a little bit, especially coming into this round where ASU needs everything they've got.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and thank you to our great producer, Wouter Bigfoot in the chat for the 86-month subscription to the Chess.com channel. He says, I love these hots. I guess he means hot hosts. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, it's a Freudian slip, of course.
Big.
Naturally a Freudian slip. We don't blame you. But as we see, I don't know. I'm looking back at this Devin Bryan game, and it is a little bit uncomfortable because you want to get castled. Like if you're Devin, if you're playing with the black pieces, you want to get castled, but you're a little afraid with not a lot of coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go to that game. I think this game between Brian and Devin is going to be crucial for the match. We just saw a very original move there by Devin on the first board. So he just played his move rook to g8. And yeah, so far Devin is 2 out of 2, but perhaps Brian can upset him here. That would go a long way for an ASU comeback.
Guys, when your Grandmaster host says a move is very original, maybe you should think twice about that move. But it definitely is unique, and sometimes it's hard to know how to follow things up, but he has 4 minutes versus 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
He takes on f5. Black can take on f3 and has bishop d4, but white still has bishop e3, blocking the check and saving the bishop. But I feel like this is not quite it. I wonder why. I wonder why the computer is so harsh about this move.
Sorry, what's the issue with just sticking with the knight?
Well, which knight? You cannot take with the e knight because it hangs your queen. Yeah, you can do that, but that feels like a step backwards. But perhaps it's the way to go. You can also go for takes on f3, queen takes f3 now, maybe then bishop d4, and you might not necessarily have to block with the bishop. You could even consider king h1, because if black takes, there's f takes e6, and you're eyeing that f7 point.
Yeah, that does seem like a pretty interesting move there, and I will be surprised just takes the bishop as well. Oh, but instead we get takes on c3, and I think that bishop was way more valuable on d4.
Right, now f takes e6. He's banging on this move, hoping to win the bishop, but after f takes e6, I think White has a crushing attack. Yes, you can throw in this check, but how do you defend e6? And there Brian goes. I mean, Devin is in massive trouble here. I think he's just getting checkmated.
Yeah, I mean, you have the piece, but I don't see how you defend things. You can't really run by going like d5 eventually. You can't do anything like that. There's no real easy way to pull it through because so many pieces are eyeing that f7.
Exactly, and one problem for Black is also that, let's say, after check king h1, even d takes e6 is not going to save you. As White is bishop b5 check. You're going to have to block with one of your pieces, let's say the bishop, and then queen takes f7 is going to be checkmate. So this game looks like it's about to be over. I don't see how Devin can fight on here.
You know, he can still try. He's going to have to do something like f6 and try his best, try his hardest, but this position looks very difficult. You just have to move the f pawn. I don't see a real good way to defend other than that, and even that doesn't really do the trick.
Yeah, so this will be a huge win for Brian, which again would give him a great chance of a comeback. Again, d takes e6, bishop b5, and it's checkmate. Or I mean, there's queen d7, but you lose literally every single piece. So yeah, perhaps f6 or f5, but it looks terrible.
It all looks rough, and you see his time dwindling down even further, which maybe we should start using the Grand Prix more often. This is a great blitz weapon, because even though if you see the eval looking a little bit suspicious for the first couple moves, really it was so easy to fall into this type of trap.
Yeah, and Devin now falling below 30 seconds. Yeah, this game truly showcased the power of the Grand Prix attack in the Sicilian. Like I said, it's very easy to play. You just bring your pieces out, go for the attack, and for your opponent, it's a bit annoying. So that's why it's a popular guest. And yeah, I think Brian has this one. I mean, 13 seconds for Devin, and his position looks dire.
Yeah, his position looks dire, and I think we're going to see the result in the next couple of seconds. But here, e takes f7. You're going to have such a beautiful mate on your hands. You have to take with the rook and then mate. I think we're going to see it. Or maybe he'll just resign here. Maybe he'll see it. But there's no other way. And we see it. Brian has yet another point here. So perhaps we go back to bird's eye view, see what else is happening on the boards.
Yeah, great win for Brian. He's 3-0 now for his team. And again, that's doing a great job for his team to try to come back. But Patel doing really well on the purple board 2. He's up the exchange, and yeah, he's up the exchange. So he should win that one. On board number 3 between Komar and Shaw, the brown board, things looking pretty even for the most part, although I don't like the fact that White doesn't have a safe place for his king anymore. And on board 4, things, the green board, things looking pretty even between Assam and Sanjay. So, Jules, I feel like the game that has the most potential for fireworks is that game between Komar, Quinn, and Shaw. As, you know, where's that White king on e1 going to go?
Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah,
Right,
it's always
so,
like this when you're encastled.
Yeah, you can't castle kingside anymore, and queenside castles also doesn't look great.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to hope that your counterattack is good enough, but it's a little bit difficult to make this decision with to just keep your king out there. That was kind of a question mark.
Yeah, the question mark also to me looks a little bit harsh, but maybe after, well, f4 I feel like it's only going to weaken White further, so I don't know why the computer gives it a question mark. Maybe there was something good?
Well, bishop takes, you have to take back, and I don't know, I would be a little scared to queenside castle, but perhaps it's the best option, because otherwise you're just kind of leaving your king there in no man's land.
Okay, he goes g5, trying to blast open the g-file. I guess Black should take. White's going to capture with the rook, and then maybe like g6 or knight g6. White's not delivering checkmate right away on the king side. Yeah, this is definitely a very double-edged game that I feel can go either way.
Yeah, and I think that's a good practical move with g5, because at least you have a counterattack. If you're, you know, your king is going to be wide in the open, at least you can have a counterattack. I like rook takes g5, and then maybe you can try to swing your knight over if you're sure you're not getting mated.
Yeah. Right, so rook takes g5, queen keeping up the pressure on the clock. Let's see how this one is going to go. c5, but that's giving away the b5 square. Doesn't quite look like the right move to me. Knight f5, also a good move. Now either g6 or knight g6. Computer saying knight g6 is forced.
Yeah, the knight g6 makes sense because then you're going to need a few moves at least to open up the position. And I don't know if you have a few moves if you're Quinn here.
I think now would perhaps be a good time to go queenside castle. I feel like your king is not going to stay safe in the middle forever. And you also gain a tempo on the bishop on d6. If you're feeling really greedy, by the way, you can take that bishop and then take on c5 with the rook or the bishop.
But greed perhaps is not the best response here. And I mean, once, the castling option is done, perhaps he thinks he can tuck his king away on f1 or something, but this does not look super safe. And at least if you queenside castle, you have a chance to move your rook over to g1, start the attack. But for now, that knight is firmly planted on g6.
Right, but Rikin getting down to 30 seconds on his clock. He goes f6. Okay, I think white should just sacrifice the rook. Or if you don't want to sack, there's even the h5 square, but I think sacking is not too bad.
When in doubt, sacrifice. Also, you need the counterattack, but it's a little bit difficult to find your follow-up attack.
For the sack. In the meantime, by the way, Sanjay has won on board number 4, so now it's all tied up. Knight h6 wins back the material in fade only move.
Okay, just play it simple and take the rook. I mean, there's always other options, but sometimes just playing it simple is good. He has a little bit more time than his opponent, but he can't let it dwindle down.
Right, I don't know why the evil bar is sky high here, because, I mean, if white takes, white's up a pawn, but it doesn't feel like it's completely over yet. Let's see.
Yeah, perhaps the queen h7 square could be interesting after takes, and maybe then he can castle queenside and have a really good attack. The a8 work is vulnerable, but he has to make that decision very, very soon, and just brings it back. So really easy move, rook e8. Now, where exactly do you put the queen?
Yeah, queen c6 looks like a good move to me, hitting the bishop, putting pressure on c5. Now, queenside castle, and there we have it. And I think, Jules, this just decides the game. As you hit the bishop to c5 is also often coming. This looks really tough for Rikim. But rook d8, he's still hanging on, perhaps.
Yeah, but Quinn has 10 seconds, and he has to move very, very quickly. We just see, kind of, it almost feels like a small panic move, but he was hoping he'd fall in the trap, and he did with bishop takes c5. Nice, and you're just up material now.
Right, so this should be a win for Quinn. All right, so I think we can switch away from this game. Jules, there's a lot of action in the other game. It's far from over. Let's have a look in the game between Kumar and Patel. Patel is up a pawn. He was completely winning earlier up the exchange, and I think also a pawn or two. Now he's only up a pawn, so Kara should be able to hold here.
Yeah, and also it's not like a passed pawn or anything. That pawn is on the e square. So it will kind of just come down to time and if you can find many tricks. And there aren't a lot of tricks in this position, but there definitely are some.
Yeah, no, this position pretty limited. Only queens and a rook on the board. And black having a 4 versus 3 majority. So black can push, but it's hard. So queen e4, he's offering to go into the rooking game, which is objectively a draw, but white wants to keep the queens on the board.
It makes sense if you feel like you don't quite know your rook endgames well enough. Keeping a queen on the board is a safe option. But I mean, now it's, I don't know, you just want to make sure not to hang f2 or something like that.
Well, black should not hang mate right now, so that's why he went queen d4. And white insists on keeping the queens on, and black insists on getting them off. All right, so let's see. This is objectively a draw. White should go h4 here. That's the best defensive technique. And if white doesn't go h4, black should go g5 to gain some space.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but right now they have 2-second increments, so it's not like we're going to see a flag, most likely. And here you try to figure out the best way to go forward, and it's a little bit difficult. I mean, takes
h4, good move there by Kara, so that in case black does go g5, you get one pair of pawns on the board. So let's see how this one is going to continue.
Yeah, maybe just g takes f5. It seems a little bit simple, and you can just kind of try to move. As long as you don't lose your f pawn, you're most likely chilling. don't get mated, don't lose your f-pawn, and you're very happy. I think we're going to see a draw here.
Probably. It's really hard for black to make any progress here, but now just king up eventually. Okay, king up. There's still some chances here, though, especially since the players are low on time.
It's a good decision to keep the rooks on the board so you can deliver checks. Worst comes to worst. You don't have to calculate anything too much. But yeah, this is looking pretty solid. Anything can happen, though, as they're getting under 10 seconds each.
Yep. All right, so if black can somehow push these pawns forward a little bit, there's definitely still some chances.
Yeah.
F4 now, and then king f5. I'd say go to e2, so your king can... but now king f5, and now your king is cut off. This is very... No, but now king back.
Okay, king to e2, maybe just delivering some checks. And there's not a lot of great places for the king to hide, because you can just swing your rook over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Check, I assume king f1 is the way to go. Yep. You have to make sure that you stay in front of the passed pawn. F3. Now black has some ideas to maybe go for some checkmate threats.
Yeah, and you don't want to be so worried that you don't see the checkmate threats, and that's probably what he's going to try. Although maybe he doesn't see it himself here and is just okay with the draw, but I would definitely try swinging your rook around.
Yep. Okay, he's just moving back and forth. Okay, at some point move this rook to the side and threaten checkmate. So rook a4 and checkmate. Yeah.
Okay.
Rook d1 is a threat. He's going to see it, right?
Yeah, he's going to see it.
Wait, but now it's very tricky.
Ooh.
King h3. This looks winning for black, and there he goes. I think black has this. King g2.
Oh. And this was actually some very, very nice tricks, but he still has to play this precisely. Don't allow for any stalemates or anything.
Check. And he finds it. Yeah, okay. This one should be in the back. Okay.
And 16 seconds, you don't have to think too much. You can just bring it back down and well,
black is still winning, but there's a lot of technique required here, so that's why he's hesitant. Take the pawn. Don't lose on time.
Yeah, you have to be a little careful. 2 seconds on the clock. Don't flag. You do have a 2-second increment, but you can easily lose.
Don't flag.
Oh,
don't flag.
And he flagged. No, because he was thinking, he was playing this very, very well, and he was thinking, he was taking his time, and he probably just didn't notice. It happens. It definitely happens, but disappointed look from Grandmaster Benjamin Bach here with that flag. But we feel for you. That brings it to 6-6. That brings it to 6-6 with Brian taking the point, Kara taking home the point, Quinn taking home the point, and Rohit taking the point. A huge comeback.
A lot of my channel points are in Arizona, but ASU ties it up, and we're all tied going into the final round, so it can really go either way.
And yeah, we have the ASU president here, president of the chess club, I believe, just completely happy in chat. It could go either way going into this next round, but that must be devastating for that flag to happen.
Absolutely. He was still winning, but like I said, a lot of technique required. But yeah, you just have to move. You cannot get down to those final seconds, as you can easily flag.
I think Ben is worried for his channel points here. But we'll see how this last round... Now, everything is hinging on this last round here. It's very important. We might get tie breaks. We saw some last week. But anything could happen. It could go either way. It does seem like the momentum's on ASU's side, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they came back from a 2-point deficit, and now it's all tied up. So let's see what's going to happen in this final round. We have Roberts with white against Kara on board 1, and Patel against Marmolejo, Sanjay against Komar, and Shah against SM. And yeah, it will be interesting to see how Patel on board 2 is going to deal with this heartbreaking loss. He's up against Brian Marmolejo, who is on 3 out of 3.
Yeah, Brian's been doing fantastic, and we'll see if he's able to keep it up as well. But we're seeing Roy Lopez here, and I don't know. I don't think he'll play the Berlin, but sometimes there are always options. Now, this is a move you see pretty often in Blitz at this level. You don't see it as much over the board, but it's not a bad try.
Mm-hmm. Right, so d6, solid move by Kara. The Steinitz defense. Often black's going to go bishop d7 to neutralize that pin. He goes knight f6 instead. Now, maybe I can go for a quick d4. So either right away or defend that pawn and d4 in the near future.
Yeah, that rookie one feels pretty thematic, even if you don't really know exactly what you're doing in this opening. Just following the themes is pretty simple. Yeah, and here you want to make sure not to allow, maybe just c3 is a good option because you can tuck your bishop away. You don't have to worry about the pin. It's a decent choice.
Yeah, I like c3 here, as you also stop knight d4, and that's what Devin plays. It's going to be hard to break in the center, as black is already putting a lot of pressure. But another plan you have here is to go h3, and after bishop h5, you go d3, knight bd2, knight f1, knight g3, and then all of a sudden this bishop can feel a little bit passive. He goes d4 right away, though, but this is a bit risky, as after takes, you're going to have to recapture the pawn.
Yeah, and you know what? We're seeing a lot of pretty classical openings here for Blitz, so this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so Jules, let's go to the bird's eye view as all of the games are underway. So we can have a quick look at what's happening in all of the games. So we see on board 1, we have this Rulo pass between Roberts and Kara. On board 2, Patel is going for a stonewall attack. On board 3, I think black is having a really good Caro-Kann with the knight and the bishop out, putting pressure on white center. And on board 4, we have a good old London. So I don't know, since this match is all tied, it can really go either way.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're seeing people playing almost a little bit more conservative openings, because they don't want to be the person to lose it out of the opening for their opponents, for their team. So I do think we're seeing some slightly more solid stuff this round.
Right. Let's see how this one is going to go. But looking at these openings, I give a slight edge to Arizona. They're a little bit better on board 1, a little bit better on board 2, a little better on board 3, and a pretty even on board 4. So, and the evil bar wait! Jules, black just hung a piece on board 2. Let's go to that game.
Oh, let's see if they see it.
Right, so it was all looking pretty normal. So knight e5 was played, and black played bishop d6. A full knight on g4, so... And now he hung his bishop as well. Brian on full tilt, the star player, and he just hung another piece.
And that happens all the time. When you hang a piece, your brain goes into panic mode and everything keeps falling because you can come back from 1 piece. Maybe you can come back from 2, but 3 full pieces, that's pretty much resignable.
Yeah, knight d6, you're not getting the knight back. I mean, some heartbreaking stuff there for Brian. He's been the star player for ASU, but down 3 pieces here, white having the attack. Bishop d6, now, maybe black can win a piece back. Patel is just completely winning in, by the knight of 6.
Oh, that's pretty. That's very pretty.
Patel just had that heartbreaking loss, so this will be a nice way for him to finish things off.
And all of Patel's pieces are just very in harmony. They're all aiming very well. And, it doesn't matter if he sees a mate in 2 because everything still looks very good. You still can't take b7 because you're going to hang mate. So, I don't know. Brian's got a tough task ahead of him.
He does. And the nice thing about being up so many pieces is that in case black goes f5, you can easily afford to give one up because you're still up like so many pieces with a crushing attack. So Patel should have this one in the back. Okay, now again, knight f6 is checkmate in 2. But even, let's say, I don't know, everything is winning here.
Let's just say, well, everything. Yeah, this just looks like an absolutely crushing position, and he can take his time, take his moments. It doesn't really matter. You can take back with the pawn or the bishop. Bishop probably makes sense if you're going for a quick mate.
Right, he takes with the bishop. Still looking good, lining up queen g3, putting massive pressure on that black king. But yeah, knight d6, and here we see why that extra material matters, because he's just having a bigger army to attack with than black can defend himself with. So it's just completely over. Patel's gonna win this game, and he does. So Jules, let's go back to the bird's eye view, as there's a lot of action. So we see now that Arizona is taking the lead on board 2. Arizona also having a big, on board 1 also white having a big advantage, or Arizona I should say, on the blue board. On board 3, the brown board, things can still go either way. I don't know, we might see Arizona winning on boards 1 and 2, and maybe ASU striking back on the bottom 2 boards.
It's definitely a possibility, and then maybe we can even see a tie break, but anything could happen here. Even the games where things are swinging, there's still chances that someone could hang something. That's why I love looking at some of these lower division matches. But yeah, I don't know. There is some interesting stuff going on in board 3 if we want to take a look.
Yeah, so, let's go to board 4. I just like the move that Fahad played. He played g6, g5. And he wants to go g4, sacrifice a pawn perhaps, but that will open up the h1 for him, will give him really nice attacking prospects. We see here the opposite side castlings, but I feel like it's going to be easier for black to attack. And Fahad also up a minute on the clock, so I think he's got a real good chance here to get a crucial win for his team.
Yeah, and this is a little difficult because you don't want to take that pawn on g4 because then all of a sudden this file is open. It's going to be really hard to defend against the mate. You don't have the bishop pair to help you out there. So you just have to try to keep attacking on your own, but even that's difficult. And the sacrifice on a6 doesn't really work, but it might be the best try.
Yeah, let's see if Rikin will go for it. I mean, I'm sure he's looking at it. He goes rook c1, perhaps preparing that. G takes h3. I think you have to go g3 to keep things closed. But yeah, it's looking good for Fahad. Again, he also has a big lead on the clock.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe now it's even more imperative to try to get things together with your light square bishop because you don't want to accidentally hang mate now. But here,
All right, so
I don't know why it's.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so enthusiastic about e4. I guess it's the best way to defend that pawn on d5. But things looking tough for Ricky, and as he's getting down to 90 seconds on the clock against 3.5 for Fahad. I mean, now just take another pawn, or e4, grabbing more space. Lots of good options.
Yeah, and here, when you have such a huge attack like Fahad has right here, any sort of move that loses tempo, like bishop d3, can be a huge issue. I mean, if you were Shah, you'd want a doubled rooks. You'd want a bigger attack. You'd want your knight to be doing something out here. But it's still far from over.
Right. So let's see if Fahad can get the win here for his team. But Jules, let's perhaps quickly switch back to the bird's eye view. Things are looking really good for Arizona. I think they're going to win this match. You can pull the bird's eye view.
Things are looking good for Arizona and maybe for your channel points as well, Ben.
Yeah, no, that would be a nice way for me to recover some points that I just lost in heartbreaking fashion. Yeah, let's pull up the bird's eye view. They are already ahead by a point, and I think they're going to get another win on board number 1 as Roberts is up a full piece. Yeah, she's up a bishop. On board 3 they're better, and on board 4 they're better, so they might just sweep this final round.
Just an absolute comeback. They lost the last round and they're like, nope, no more. And now everyone is super locked in. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. And not only is he up a full piece, he's up a full piece with like 0 compensation.
Exactly, yeah, no compensation for black whatsoever, not even a pawn or anything. So Roberts has to win this game. He's hesitating a little bit though. The only way that he doesn't win this game is if he thinks too long and messes up in time pressure. So just move the bishop, bring the rook into the game, and the game should win itself. But the way you don't win this game is if you think too long.
And you know what they say, the hardest to win games are the games that are already won, or is that what they say? But here, looking back... Go ahead.
Oh, but I was going to say, I think it's harder to win. Yeah, no, I've heard that saying many times, but I think it's harder to win from a losing position than it is from a winning position. But if he wins, that would mean that Arizona would only need another half a point on any board. So if Fahad wins this game, it would be all over.
Yeah, but you know what? There are still tries here. There are still options, especially if he doesn't get super aggressive. If he gets passive, like kind of what we're seeing here, there are chances to stop the attack.
Bishop e4 played. By the way, just for the record, I think Roberts just allowed an opportunity for Carl to get the piece back, but he didn't take advantage of it. I mean, this position right here that we see, Jules, is not so bad for white, because you're down 2 pawns, but you have really nice pressure on the c-file and on this diagonal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and you want to make sure a6 is not going to be hanging after any sort of trades. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out how to defend this properly, or if you should continue to attack, which is probably why Fahad is taking time and kind of evening up the time a little bit.
Yeah. Perhaps just support this knight on c6 once more, or you can maybe move the knight. If white takes on c7, you give up the queen for the 2 rooks. Should still be good for black because you also have this h1. Because rook d6, and now white can take.
Yeah, you can, but Okay, maybe he doesn't want to take. I think actually the queen was better placed on that e2 square. But yeah, now it's a little bit difficult to follow up correctly.
Right, queen f6. The computer is giving that an X. Looks like a fine move to me, supporting the knight on c6 once more and getting that queen closer to the white king. White shouldn't give up this bishop, because if this bishop is gone, then black can go for a big checkmating attack. It goes b4. Computer doesn't like it, but looks logical to me. Maybe now
It's a practical choice.
d8 on rook d2.
Yeah, but rook d8, it feels a little bit difficult to make that move because you kind of want to keep your rook on that h file just instinctually. But if you take a second to see and really try to evaluate, you'll see that doubling up the rooks could be a great option, especially with that f2 pawn potentially weak.
Right. Well, let's go back to bird's eye view, as there's a lot of action in the other games. Roberts is winning, but he's down at 10 seconds on the clock. He still has to finish this off. Komar also winning on board number 3, but also still has to finish it off. So Arizona really should win, but it's not in the books just yet. And actually, as we speak, SM on board 4 is messing things up as Rikin is crashing through with those pawns on the queen side.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, and that's how it can turn really, really quickly. And we see, points for Arizona on 2 boards, but I don't know, Shaw is completely coming back here, and it might just be up to the board 1.
Yep. All right, so they've reached 8 points, so they only need one more draw to clinch the match, and I think Roberts is getting the win there. He takes an f5. It's an important pawn, but he's got 2 seconds. He's got to move. He moved with 1 second.
Oh, that's so scary. And we've seen the flags here. We've seen flags in completely winning positions. We've seen flags everywhere. I mean, Roberts needs to finish this off.
Just move. Gain some time on the clock. Just don't hang mate on d1 somehow. All right, just don't hang mate. Move. Make a move. If he can accumulate a little bit of time, he's going to win this game, but just don't drop down to like 1 or 2 seconds every single move.
Yeah, and you need to find some tricks if you're Kumar. You need to find a way to trick them, but it's kind of difficult in this position because everything's pretty solid.
Right, good idea to get some trades in. Just give a check, get some time on the clock, and get me those channel points.
And we see now why Ben is so enthusiastic about this game and forcing the queen trade. Now, I mean, you need a little technique here, but you're up a full bishop and a pawn, actually. So this should be an easy convert.
Yeah, and he's accumulating the time on the clock, so this should be an easy win. There goes another pawn.
Yeah, probably could have just taken before, but now that bishop has a really nice place on g4. The king can come in, and you can start pushing your f-pawn. It looks like it's gonna be donezo very soon.
Yep, it's 8-6 for Arizona, and they're gonna get another point in this game, and Devin wins, and that is the match.
That is the match, and Ben's channel points are saved. Arizona able to take it home by just a hair too, but still managing to take it home. I believe it's 9-6 now. So
yes.
What an exciting match, Ben.
Yeah, it's been an exciting match indeed. We see here Rikin finishing off the final game as he's about to deliver checkmate. But yeah, ASU fought hard, but in the end, Arizona got things together, and they came clutch in the final round.
They came clutch, and we're going to be taking a look at these final results here. But that was such a clutch from Arizona, who managed to hold on to their lead, and we see it. Devin Roberts, 3 out of 4 points. Great. Karan Patel, 3 out of 4. Their board 3, 2 out of 4, and Fahad, 1 out of 4. Also ASU, we see their board 2 doing great. Brian, everyone really, really pulled their own. 9-7. That's a pretty close match score. But I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, it was a close match, but in the end, the boards 1 and 2 for Arizona pulled through. They played some good chess, and that was the deciding factor. So it was an exciting match, but in the end, Arizona just a little bit better.
They did what they needed to do. But everyone, don't go anywhere. We'll have an interview with one of the players or even one of the coaches. We'll see you after the break.
Looking for new ways to enjoy chess? Check out our schedule of Chess.com community events today. Mondays, play Rapid Opening Roulette and expand your opening repertoire with a new opening each month. Tuesdays, compete against other Untitled players in Untitled Tuesday. Battle your way to the top in Arena Kings on Wednesdays. And finish the week off each Saturday with the blistering Community Bullet Brawl. All happening in the Community Club on Chess.com.
Students, did you know that you can get a discount on any Chess.com premium membership? If you're enrolled in a college, university, or high school in a participating country, you can get 50% off any yearly or monthly premium plan, Diamond, Platinum, or Gold. That's unlimited game review, unlimited puzzles, unlimited bots, unlimited lessons, and no ads. All at 50% off. Go to chess.com/students and get your discount today.
Do you think you could beat Ding in the World Championship match?
Probably.
True. Are you happy that Ali Reza is representing France?
Yes.
Live.
Oh, now we're getting spicy.
If I may, I asked him to play for us in the Olympiad, and he didn't want to. So, like...
I understand. The unhappiness comes from the point that Ali Reza is not representing the team.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as a family man in the near future?
No.
True, but you had to think a little bit about that question.
I mean, we wouldn't have to think about that.
Let me elaborate on this. Are you afraid of commitments?
Yes.
True.
This is where Maxime lays down on the couch and we do therapy.
I don't need therapy over this. I've fully embraced this fact. I think I can resign now. Yes.
And so our healing session is complete. Maxime, do you think you will be a world champion someday?
No, but I'll try.
True.
Have you ever destroyed anything or acted in an aggressive way after a chess game?
Not destroyed, acted in an aggressive way, yes.
True.
Have you ever considered quitting chess?
At some point.
True.
Yeah, when was that?
A couple years ago.
Well, we're glad you didn't quit.
I'm also glad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CCL. We are joined by Board 3 of U of A, Quinn Comer. We're very happy to have you. So, leading into the last round, it was all tied up. Were y'all sweating a little bit, or did you know you were going to pull through with the win? Oh, can't hear right now?
I can't hear you.
Looks like we're...
Can you hear me?
I cannot hear them, no.
Oh, sorry about that on our end. We'll try to fix that. Give me more time to workshop
There we go.
my question. Okay, all good? Okay. I was saying going into round 3, going into round 4, everything was all tied up. I was wondering if y'all were sweating a little bit or if you knew you would pull through with the win.
To be honest, yeah, I was still sweating quite a bit. I was coming off of 2 losses, 2 very hard-fought losses. But I still had faith that we could pull through. I was still confident in my chess skills, and I felt like I was still clear in my head. So I still felt good about it all, and I had faith in my team that we would still perform well. Yes. But it would have been close.
Nice.
It was tough.
All right. And yeah, so you guys won this match against ASU. So does that bring a little bit of extra tension that it's a bit of a derby between University of Arizona and ASU?
I would think so, yes. Yes. Having lived in Arizona my entire life and having some of my friends go to ASU, it definitely felt the most close to home and the most I could ask for in a rivalry match. And I was hoping for at least a close game, even if I still wanted us to win all the way through. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it all went and how the match ended up. Exciting all the way through. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for more from my team and from the opposing team. They fought really well, and yeah.
So what makes U of A better than ASU?
I would say our science program, because I am not biased at all being a science major, and definitely not anything else like our basketball team. Not that I'm up to date on that, but to be honest, both universities are fairly good for what they offer if we want to expand beyond chess. And we both have really good chess teams, but I don't know.
Right, and today we gave you guys the spotlight on our stream. So how is it to play on stream? Is it different knowing that people are watching? Does it make you more nervous, or does it give you more energy, perhaps knowing that some of your friends are watching as well?
I think it does both. I was definitely very nervous beforehand, seeing the official broadcast and the thousands of people watching beforehand, but I just sat and did as many tactics as I could, and I felt like I did well enough beforehand, before the game started, that I just tuned it all out. And then I just, get myself in a flow state and try not to think too much about all the people watching and just try to focus on the game, which got easier as the matches went on.
Absolutely. Congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, everybody, we have a lot of exciting matches coming up next week. We're going to see SLU versus University of Virginia, Missouri versus SRM, then there'll be Athens versus Yale, and Lviv versus University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. And while we're here, Susquehanna is a quantitative trading firm and CCL sponsor. They believe the skills you use in games you play like chess and poker can translate to skills you'll use in the world of trading. Susquehanna is currently accepting applications for Discovery Days in their Philadelphia, Dublin, and Sydney offices. Some Discovery Days are virtual, while others are in person. Transportation and accommodation can be provided if needed. During these events, you'll have the opportunity to meet employees, Play games and explore what a career in the quantitative trading industry could look like for you. Check out the Susquehanna career site to apply. go.chess.com/discovery. All right, everybody, that was a very, very exciting final match. Nothing else we could have asked for. I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It really went down to the wire, and we saw some good chess, also some chess that perhaps could have been improved upon. But that's the fun format of the CCL.
Absolutely, a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us here, and we'll see you next week.